Good evening, explorers. You've just stumbled into a quiet starlit night 10,000 years ago, where the air hums with the crackle of a small fire and the distant call of an owl. Your bare feet brush against cool earth, and the world feels vast, alive, and untouched. Tonight we're not just talking about ancient history, we're slipping into the daily rhythm of people who lived when mammoths still roamed, and survival was an art form. Forget the idea that life back then was all grunting and chasing. These folks were clever crafting tools, telling stories and dreaming under the same stars you see now. As you settle in, maybe your fan is humming quietly, or your favourite blanket is just right. Let's unravel their world together. It's not the dusty textbook version. It's vivid, surprising, and strangely soothing. If you're loving this journey already, drop a like or hit that subscribe button. It's like leaving a footprint in the sand for others to find this path. And hey, in the comments, tell me what ancient skill you'd want to master. Spear throwing, fire starting, you decide. The world outside is slowing down, and this story is your chance to unwind while exploring a time when every day was a quiet adventure. So let's step closer to that fire. Listen to the whispers of the past and discover what life 10,000 years ago was really like. Why did humans decide farming was a good idea? Dust swirls around your bare feet as you stand on the sun-warmed earth, a vast plain stretching before you dotted with wild grasses, swaying in the breeze. The air carries the sharp scent of soil and the distant tang of a river winding through the hills. Your stomach rumbles a familiar ache, but the land feels alive with possibility. For generations, your people have roamed these lands, following herds of deer, picking berries and cracking open nuts under the shade of sprawling trees. Life is hard, but free days spent tracking game nights, laughing by afar, stories of the stars binding you to those who came before. But something is changing. The world feels different, steadier, warmer. The seasons no longer shift so wildly, and the animals you hunt seem to linger longer in the valleys. You notice the grass is growing thicker, their golden heads heavy with seeds. Someone in your group, maybe your cousin with the wild ideas, squats by a patch of these plants, rubbing the seeds between their fingers. What if we stayed, they say, eyes glinting? What if we made this place ours? You're not sure what to make of it, staying. The idea feels heavy like a stone in your chest. Your life has always been movement, chasing the herds, following the seasons, carrying only what fits in your hands. But the group is growing. More mouths to feed, more little ones tugging at your woven tunic. The hunts don't always bring enough, and the berry patches are picked clean faster than before. You've seen the way the elders watch the horizon, their faces creased with worry. Maybe staying isn't the worst idea. Maybe tending these grasses, coaxing them to grow where you want, could mean full bellies without the endless chase. You dig your toes into the earth, feeling its warmth and wonder. If this ground could be more than a path, it could be a home. Days turn to weeks, and your group decides to try it. You're not alone in this choice. Across the river valleys and plains, others are doing the same. The world is settling, the climate holding steady, and people are planting roots both in the soil and in their hearts. You learn to scatter seeds in the soft earth, to watch for sprouts, to guard them from birds and drought. It's not easy. Your hands blister from scraping the ground with sharpened stones, and your back aches from bending under the relentless sun. The first harvest is small, just enough to fill a few baskets, but the sight of those golden stalks grown by your own hands sparks something in you. Pride, maybe? Hope. You chew the tough grains, grinding them between your teeth, and though they're bland compared to the sweet berries or rich meat of a fresh kill, they fill you up. For the first time you know there's food waiting for you tomorrow. But the work never stops. The life you once knew, wandering for a few hours to hunt, gathering what the land offered, then resting by the fire, feels like a distant dream. Now you wake before dawn, the sky still bruised with night and toil until the stars appear. Your hands are calloused, your shoulders knotted from hauling water and pulling weeds. The plants demand your life and you give it. You build a shelter, not the temporary hides of your roaming days, but something sturdier made of mud and reeds. Your neighbours do the same, and soon a cluster of huts rises along the riverbank, smoke curling from their roofs. You're not just a wanderer anymore, you're part of something bigger, a village tethered to the land. The harvests grow larger and your baskets overflow with grain. You learn to store it in pits lined with stones, a treasure to guard against lean times. But with the surplus comes something new, something unsettling. Not everyone works the fields. Some, like the man with the sharp tongue who organizes the planting, start claiming more of the grain. He builds a bigger hut, wears finer woven cloth, and soon he's giving orders while you sweat in the dirt. You notice the way he looks at your baskets calculating and you feel a prickle of unease. The food you grow isn't just yours anymore. Others too begin to hoard their piles of grain growing while yours shrink. You work harder, but somehow you have less. The elders warn that this is the price of staying, of building, of growing. You wonder if they're right. Your body tells a story of its own. The meals you eat are filling but repetitive grain porridge day after day, sometimes mixed with a few wilted greens. You miss the variety of your old life, the juicy flesh of a deer, the tart burst of wild plums, the crunch of roasted roots. Your teeth ache, your bones feel brittle, and you tire faster than you used to. The children born in the village are smaller than those you remember from your roaming days, their faces pale, their legs thin. Sickness lingers spreading through the crowded huts, and some don't make it past their first few years. You hear whispers from travellers, those who still roam, that their lives are different. Harder in some ways, but their bodies are stronger, their days less chained to toil. You look at your hands rough and scarred and wonder if you made the right choice. Yet the village grows. More huts, more fields, more people. You learn to tame animals, coaxing wild goats and sheep to stay near their milk and meat, adding to your stores. You build walls to protect your grain, your animals, your home. The man with the sharp tongue now calls himself a leader, and he demands a share of every harvest. Others follow his lead, and soon the village has those who work and those who rule. You see it in their eyes. The ones who rule carry a different weight, not of labour, but of power. You're not sure when it happened, but the world has split those who sweat and those who take. Years pass and the land changes with you. The fields stretch farther, the wild grass is pushed back, the forests thinning, where you cut wood for fires and homes. You teach your children to plant, to harvest, to obey the rhythms of the soil. They'll never know the freedom of the hunt, the thrill of chasing a deer through the dawn mist, or the quiet joy of a day spent wandering with no destination. Their world is here in the dirt, in the endless cycle of sowing and reaping. You tell them stories of the old days, but they listen with half an ear, their hands busy with the tasks you've given them. The stars still shine, but you rarely have time to look up. Sometimes at night, when the village is quiet, you walk to the edge of the fields and stand where the wild grasses still grow. You run your fingers over their feathery heads, remembering the days when you roamed without care, when the land was a partner, not a master. You think of the travellers' tales, of their taller frames, their brighter eyes, their lives unbound by the grind of the fields. You're shorter now, your body worn, your years likely fewer than theirs. The choice to stay, to plant, to build it, gave you food, a home, a legacy. But it took something too. Freedom, health, the ease of a life that asked less of you. You turn back to the village, its huts glowing faintly under the moonlight. This is your world now, for better or worse. You chose the soil, and the soil chose you. The grains you grow feed your people, but they also bind you, tethering you to a life of labour and loss. You wonder what your cousin, the one with the wild ideas, would say if they could see it all. Now, the fields, the huts, the divides between those who work and those who take. Maybe they'd laugh, or maybe they'd sigh. Either way, you're here, standing on the earth you claimed, living the life you built, for better or worse. Your hut, your prison. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and smoke as you crouch inside your home, a low-ceilinged hut made of sun-baked mud and straw. The walls are rough under your fingertips, crumbling slightly where the rains have seeped through. Above you, a hole in the roof lets in a sliver of pale morning light, but it also welcomes the choking haze from the fire smouldering in the corner. Your bare feet press against the hard-packed dirt floor, cool and uneven, scattered with bits of straw and the occasional crunch of a small bone, a leftover from last night's meal, or maybe something older buried beneath. This is your world, a tiny square of space you share with your family, your parents, your siblings, a cousin who snores like a startled goat, and a few actual goats tethered in the corner, their bleats filling the air. The hut is alive with noise babies crying, your mother humming, as she sweeps the clatter of a wooden spoon against a clay pot. There's no door, just a ladder leaning against the wall that leads to the roof, your only way in or out. You glance up at the sky through the smoke hole, wishing for a breeze, but all you get is a faint whiff of the village outside roasting grain animal dung and the sharp tang of life. You shift on the woven reed mat where you sit, your knees tucked under you. The mat is thin, barely cushioning the hard floor, and it's where you'll sleep tonight, squeezed between your siblings, all of you tangled like a litter of puppies. Space is scarce. Your family of 8 packs into this single room, every corner stuffed with baskets of grain, clay jars of dried herbs and bundles of wool waiting to be spun. The goats have their own nook, Their warm bodies adding to the stuffy heat, their curious nibbles threatening your precious stores. You swat one away as it noses toward a basket, and it gives you a defiant stare before shuffling back to its spot. Privacy doesn't exist here. Every cough, every wisp boy, every argument is shared, bouncing off the mud walls. You've learned to tune it out mostly, but sometimes you catch your older brother muttering about the village leader, his voice low and sharp, and you wonder what it means. The hut is your shelter, but it's far from cozy. When the rains come, water drips through the roof, turning the floor to sludge. You and your siblings scramble to move the baskets, piling them on a raised platform of packed earth, but some grain always gets ruined, its musty smell lingering for days. The fire keeps you warm, but its smoke stings your eyes and clings to your hair, leaving you coughing through the night. Tiny creatures, ants, beetles, or worse, scuttle across the floor, drawn to the crumbs of your meals. You sweep daily, a task your mother insists on, but the dirt always returns as if the earth itself is reclaiming this space. You glance at the floor, noticing a patch near the wall, where the sweeping mist a scattering of tiny bones, maybe from a bird or a small animal. You shiver not because of the cold, but because you know what lies beneath. The elders say your ancestors rest under this floor, their bones carefully placed after their passing, a way to keep them close. You try not to think about it, but at night when the hut is quiet, you swear you feel their presence, a weight pressing up through the earth. Your days are shaped by this space. As a young girl, you spend most of your time here learning the tasks that keep the family alive. Your mother teaches you to grind grain, your hands pressing a smooth stone against a flat slab, turning hard kernels into flour. The motion is endless, your shoulders aching, but the rhythm is almost soothing, like a song you can't escape. You weave too, your fingers clumsy at first, threading wool through a loom to make cloth for tunics and blankets. The work is slow, but it's yours, and when you finish a piece, you feel a flicker of pride. Your younger siblings toddle around, getting underfoot, while the baby wails from a sling on your mother's back. Outside, you hear the men, your father, your uncles returning from the fields, or a hunt, their voices loud with stories or complaints. They don't stay long, often climbing to the roof to sit with other men, their laughter drifting down through the smoke hole. You wonder what they talk about, but your mother just shakes her head and hands you another basket of grain to sort. Life in the hut is a dance of survival, every task tied to the next. You fetch water from the river, climbing the ladder with a heavy jar balanced on your shoulder, praying you don't slip. You knead dough for flatbread, bake it on a hot stone by the fire, and try not to burn your fingers. You mend the walls, smearing fresh mud to patch cracks, the cool paste soothing your sunburned skin. The goats need milking, their warm teats unfamiliar in your hands, and you laugh when one kicks over the bowl, earning a scolding from your mother. Every moment is work, but there are flashes of joy, your brother sneaking you a handful of dried figs, your sister braiding your hair, the rare evenings when the whole family sits together, sharing stories of the day. You learn to find beauty in the small things, the way the firelight dances on the walls, the soft bleat of a newborn kid, the smell of fresh bread. The village around you is growing a maze of huts pressed close, their flat roofs forming pathways where people walk and talk. You climb up sometimes, escaping the stuffy air below, and from the rooftops you see the world fields of green barley stretching to the horizon, herds of sheep dotting the hills, the river glinting under the sun. The village is alive, a hum of voices and footsteps, but it's not always kind. The man who lives in the biggest hut, the one with painted walls, takes a share of everyone's grain, saying it's for the good of all. Your father grumbles about it, but he hands over the baskets, his jaw tight. You notice some families have more better cloth, more meat, while others like yours make do with less. It's a new kind of world, one where some rise while others stay low, and you're not sure how you feel about it. The hut is your home, but it's also your cage. You dream of running through the fields, chasing the wind, like the hunter's stories, but your place is here with the grain and the loom and the endless tasks. The men come and go, their days spent outside, but for you and your mother, the hut is your world. You learn its every corner, its smells, its sounds, the creak of the ladder, the rustle of reeds, the soft thud of a jar against the floor. You know the bones beneath you, the ancestors who watch in silence, and you wonder what they think of this life you're building. Do they miss the open plains, the days of wandering? Do they see the village growing, the fields spreading, the world changing under your hands? At night, when the fire dies to embers, you lie on your mat, your family breathing softly around you. The hut is quiet, but never still. The goats shift, the wind whistles through the roof hole, the earth itself seems to hum. You close your eyes, feeling the weight of the day, the ache in your hands, the warmth of your sister beside you. This is your life, for better or worse. A home of mud and smoke of work and love of bones and dreams. You wonder what the future holds, what your children will know, whether they'll live in huts like this or something greater. For now you're here in the heart of the village building. A world, one grain, one thread, one day at a time. The OG gender pay gap. The sun is barely up, but your hands are already moving, pressing a smooth stone against a slab of rock, grinding golden grains into flour. The rhythm is relentless, a steady scrape that echoes through the mud-walled hut you call home. Your knees ache pressed into the hard dirt floor, and your shoulders burn from hours of this work, hours that started before dawn and will stretch until the stars peek through the smoke hole in the roof. Around you the village hums with life, children squeal, goats bleat, and somewhere outside the men's voices rise in laughter as they prepare for the day. You're a woman in this world 10,000 years ago, and your hands are the heartbeat of your family, your village, your future. But as you wipe sweat from your brow, you can't help but notice the weight of it all. The work that never ends, the praise that never comes, the life that's yours but never fully your own. Your day began in the dark, stirring the fire to life, its smoke curling up to sting your eyes. You kneaded dough for flatbread, your fingers sticky with the coarse flour you ground yesterday, and baked it on a hot stone, careful not to burn yourself. The children, your own and your sister's, clung to your woven tunic, begging for a bite, their small hands tugging at you as you worked. You hushed them, promising a story later, and handed them scraps of bread to quiet their whines. Then came the weaving your fingers, threading wool through a loom, crafting cloth for blankets and clothes. The task is slow, your hands cramping, but the sight of a finished piece, a soft, tightly woven square, fills you with a quiet pride. You pause to nurse the baby, her warm weight against your chest, a fleeting comfort, before setting her down on a reed mat to start the next job, sorting baskets of lentils, mending a cracked clay jar, or milking the goats, their stubborn kicks testing your patience. The hut is your domain, a cramped square of earth and mud where you spend most of your life. You sweep the floor, chasing away the dust and tiny bones that seem to sprout from nowhere, and patch the walls with fresh mud, its cool texture soothing your calloused hands. You teach your daughter to grind grain, guiding her small hands, knowing she'll take your place one day. Your mother, her hair streaked with grey, works beside you, her movements slower but sure, her stories of the old days weaving through the air like the threads on your loom. The women of your family are a chain linked by these tasks, by the hut, by the village that depends on you. You cook, you clean, you mend, you nurture, and the days blur into one long cycle of doing, giving, being. Outside, the men have their own world. Your husbands and brothers leave at dawn, their spears or herding sticks slung over their shoulders. They track deer through the hills or guide sheep to fresh pastures, their days spent under the open sky. It sounds grand hunting, herding, providing, but you know the truth. They spend hours waiting, watching, napping under trees while the animals graze. When they return, their voices are loud, their stories of a near miss with a boar or a clever trick to corral a stray goat earning nods from the elders. A successful hunt means meat, a rare treat that makes the children clap with joy and the men bask in the praise, their chests puffed out as they carve the roast. But those days are few. Most of the time your family eats what you make: bread, porridge, lentils, the steady gifts of your hands. Yet no one gathers around to praise the flour you ground or the cloth you wove. Your work is the foundation, but it's invisible like the roots beneath a tree. Your body tells the story of your labour. Your knees creak from years of grinding, your joints worn like the stones you use. Your back aches from carrying water. Your hands are rough from spinning wool, your fingers scarred from countless small cuts. You've seen the men's bodies too, their shoulders broad from throwing spears, their legs strong from walking miles, but their joints don't bear the same grind, their bones don't carry the same weight. You're strong, stronger than you ever thought possible, but it's a strength that comes at a cost. You tire faster now, your breath shorter, and sometimes you catch a glimpse of yourself in the river's reflection, a face lined with sun and strain younger than your years, but older than your spirit. The village isn't blind to your worth, not entirely. The elders speak of the women who came before the ones who taught your people to plant, to weave, to build. In some families, like your cousins across the river, the line of inheritance passes through mothers, not fathers, a quiet nod to the power of women. You've seen the tools buried with women in the village graveyard, grindstones, spindles, beads of polished stone laid beside them with care, as if to say their work mattered. Your aunt, who passed last spring, was buried with a necklace of shells, her favourite weaving needle tucked beside her, and the village mourned her as fiercely as any hunter. It's a kind of respect, a recognition that lingers in death. But in life, you're still grinding, still weaving, still giving, with no one to carve your name in the air. The men hold the reins of power. The village leader, a man with a booming voice and a hut twice the size of yours, calls the men to meet on the rooftops, their decisions shaping the fields, the herds, the future. Your husband returns from these meetings, his face tight, muttering about new rules for sharing grain or settling disputes. You listen, stirring the porridge, but your voice isn't there, not in those circles. You shape the village with every loaf, every blanket, every child you raise, but the men's stories are the ones told their deeds, the ones remembered. It's not anger you feel, not exactly just a quiet ache, a sense that the world sees you as less even as it leans on you to stand. Still, there are moments that lift you. Your daughter's laughter as she masters the loom, her small hands mimicking yours. Your mother's proud nod when you bake bread just right, its crust golden and crisp. The evenings when the village gathers and you share a bowl of stew with your neighbours, their warmth a reminder that you're not alone. You're part of something bigger, a web of women whose work holds the village together. You dream of a day when your daughter might stand taller, when her work might be seen, when the stories might include her name. For now you keep going, your hands moving, your heart steady, your life. A quiet rebellion against the silence. At night you lie on your mat, the hut dark except for the faint glow of embers. Your children breathe softly beside you. Your husband snores a familiar rhythm. The village is quiet, but your mind hums with the day's work, the tasks waiting tomorrow. You think of the women buried beneath other huts, their tools and jewels a testament to lives like yours. You wonder if they felt this ache, this mix of pride and invisibility. You're the backbone of this world, the one who keeps it turning, but the world doesn't always see it. You close your eyes, your hands still tingling from the day's labour, and promise yourself one thing: you'll teach your daughter to be proud to know her worth, even if the village doesn't shout it. For now, you rest ready to rise and grind again, building a future one grain, one thread, one day at a time. Kids or cheap labour, why not both? The sun beats down on your small shoulders as you trudge along the dusty path, a heavy clay jug balanced in your arms. You're barely 5 years old, but your skinny legs know this route by heart down to the river. Fill the jug with water and haul it back to the village without spilling too much. The jug is almost as big as you, its weight pressing against your chest, making your arms tremble. You pause to catch your breath, the dry earth warm under your bare feet, and glance at the other kids nearby. Your cousin, not much older, drives a pair of stubborn goats with a stick while your little sister toddles behind, clutching a basket of wilted greens. The village hums around you, a maze of mud huts and golden fields alive with the sounds of bleating animals and your mother's voice calling from the hut. This is your world 10,000 years ago, and childhood isn't about play or rest. It's about work, survival, and hoping you make it to tomorrow. You tighten your grip on the jug and keep moving, careful not to trip on the rocks littering the path. The river glints ahead, its cool water a promise of relief. You kneel at the edge, dipping the jug until it's full, the cold splashing your hands. For a moment you're tempted to dunk your face in to feel the water wash away the dust and sweat, but you know better. Spill the water and you'll have to start over, earning a sharp look from your mother. You hoist the jug heavier now and start the slow climb back. Your arms burn, your back aches, but you've done this before and you'll do it again tomorrow. You're small, but you're strong, stronger than you look, stronger than you feel. Back at the hut, you set the jug down with a thud, a few drops sloshing over the rim. Your mother, kneeling by a grinding stone, gives you a quick nod, her hands never stopping, as she turns grain into flour. You don't wait for more, she's busy, and so are you. You grab a smaller basket and head to the goat pen, where the animals mill about, their warm bodies brushing against you. Your job is to check their ropes, make sure they don't tangle, and lead them to a patch of grass outside the village. The goats are stubborn, tugging against you, and one nips at your tunic, making you giggle despite yourself. You wave your stick, imitating your cousin's confident swagger, and the goats finally move their bells, jingling softly. It's hard work for your small hands, but there's a flicker of pride in getting it right, in knowing you're helping. Life in the village doesn't pause for you to be a child. By the time you could walk, you were carrying sticks for the fire, sweeping the hut's dirt floor, or trailing your mother as she worked. Now at 5, you're a full part of the family's rhythm. You help your mother grind grain, your tiny hands pressing the stone, though it takes twice as long as her steady strokes. You gather herbs from the fields, your sharp eyes spotting the green sprigs your aunt needs for cooking. You watch your baby brother, keeping him from crawling into the fire, his chubby hands grabbing at your hair. Every task is a piece of the puzzle, a way to keep the family fed, warm, alive. There's no time for games, no space for the carefree running you see in the goats' playful leaps. Your world is the hut, the fields, the river, and the endless list of things to do. The village needs you, but it's not kind. Food is scarce, even with the fields of barley and baskets of grain. Your meals are simple, flatbread, thin, porridge, maybe a handful of lentils or a sip of goat's milk if you're lucky. Your stomach often grumbles a quiet ache you've learned to ignore. You're smaller than you should be, your arms thin, your cheeks hollow. Some of your friends, the ones you used to chase through the village, aren't here anymore. Sickness took them, or hunger, or a fever that wouldn't break. You don't talk about it, but you feel it, the shadow that hangs over the little ones, the fear in your mother's eyes when your brother coughs. The elders say only the strongest survive, and you're determined to be one of them, to keep going, to carry that jug no matter how heavy it feels. Your family loves you, and that love shows in small ways. When you fell last spring, your leg twisting under you, your mother sat with you through the night, her hands gentle as she wrapped your ankle in soft cloth. Your father carved you a tiny wooden bird, its wings smoothed by his knife, and you keep it tucked in your belt, a secret treasure. Your older sister shares her portion of bread when you're extra hungry, her smile warm, even when her own stomach growls. They care for you, fight for you, but they can't shield you from the work or the hunger. The village is a hungry place, and every mouth is a challenge. Your parents need your hands, your strength, but every new baby tightens the knot of worry, more to feed, less to go round. You see it in the lines on your father's face, the way he counts the grain baskets with a frown. The work leaves its mark. Your hands are calloused, your knees scraped from crawling through the fields. Once you dropped a jug and it shattered the water, soaking into the dirt. Your mother didn't yell, but her silence was worse, and you cried yourself to sleep, your small body curled on the reed mat. Another time a goat kicked you, leaving a bruise that bloomed purple across your arm. But you heal your bones, knitting back together, your skin toughening. The village's children are like you, small, scarred, but stubborn. You see it in your cousin's grin as he wrestles a goat in your sister's careful hands as she sorts herbs. You're workers, but you're also kids, stealing moments of joy, splashing in the river, chasing a stray dog, or laughing when your brother trips and lands in a pile of straw. The village is changing, growing, and you're part of it. You hear the elders talk about the fields expanding, the herds growing, the new huts rising along the river. Your work, small as it seems, helps build the future. You carry water for the crops, herd goats for milk, help your mother make bread for the family. You're learning, too, how to spot ripe grain, how to calm a skittish animal, how to keep the fire burning. Your mother says you're the heart of the village, you and the other children, because you'll carry it forward. But you wonder what that means, whether you'll live long enough to see it, whether your own children will carry jugs like you do. At night you lie on the mat beside your siblings, the hut dark and warm, the fire's embers casting faint shadows on the walls. Your body aches, your hands sore from the day's work, but you feel your sister's small hand slip into yours, a quiet comfort. Outside the village, sleeps the goats quiet the river, a soft murmur. You think of the children who didn't make it, the ones whose laughter you miss, and you hold tighter to your sister's hand. You're tired, hungry, but you're here alive, part of this world. You dream of a day when the jugs might feel lighter, when the meals might fill you, when you might run without a task waiting. For now you're a child and a worker, a small piece of a village that needs you, loves you, and asks everything of you. You close your eyes, the wooden bird pressed against your side, and promise yourself you'll keep going, one step, one jug, one day at a time, and the diet that hated you. Back. You sit cross-legged on the dirt floor of your mud-walled hut, a rough wooden bowl cradled in your hands. The air is thick with the familiar smell of smoke and damp, earth mingling with the faint starchy scent of the porridge you're about to eat. It's the same meal you had this morning yesterday, and every day for as long as you can remember, a lumpy mix of ground barley boiled into a greyish mush that sticks to your teeth. You scoop a bit with your fingers, grimacing as the gritty texture scrapes your tongue. Somewhere in the village a goat bleats and your stomach rumbles, not from hunger, you're full enough, but from a craving for something, anything that isn't this. 10,000 years ago, this is your life, and your diet is a stubborn, unchanging master. 90% grains, 10% hope, and a whole lot of disappointment. You chew slowly, your jaw working harder than it should. The bread you ate earlier, baked from the same barley, was tough, flecked with tiny bits of stone from the grinding process that wear your teeth down to stubs. You run your tongue over them, feeling the rough edges, and wince. Your mother, stirring a pot by the fire, catches your eye, and hands you a small handful of lentils, a rare treat to mix into your porridge. You smile grateful, but even the lentils can't hide the monotony. Your meals are a cycle of barley wheat and the occasional scoop of lentils boiled or baked into something that fills your belly but leaves your body wanting. Meat is a dream, a story your father tells about the time he speared a deer, its rich, warm flavour a memory you cling to. But that was months ago, and the villagers' goats are too precious to slaughter, often their milk and wool more valuable than their flesh. You glance at the baskets lined against the hut's wall, stuffed with grain you helped harvest. They're your lifeline, your family's pride, but they're also a trap. The grain keeps you alive, but it's a jealous partner demanding your days in the fields, your nights guarding it from rats that scurry in the dark, their tiny claws scratching at the woven lids. You've seen what happens when the rats win whole baskets, ruin the grain speckled with dropping or sprouting green with mould. Last summer, a damp spell turned half your stores sour, the stench of rot clinging to the hut for weeks. You and your siblings ate what you could salvage, picking out the least spoiled bits, but your stomach twisted for days, and your little brother's fever lingered longer than it should. The village is learning to store food to plan for lean times, but it's a battle against time weather and pests, and you don't always win. Your body tells the story of this diet. You're smaller than the travellers who pass through those wondrous groves, who still hunt and gather their arms strong from fishing, their cheeks bright from berries and wild roots. You've seen them tall and sturdy, their laughter carrying across the village as they trade stories of open plains and rivers teeming with fish. Your own frame is thin, your legs spindly, your energy fading faster than it used to. Your mother worries about the way your sister's knees bow slightly, a sign of something wrong, something the grain can't fix. Your brother barely 3 tires quickly, his eyes dull despite the love you pour into him. The elders whisper about illnesses, weak bones, tired blood that come from eating the same thing day after day. You miss the variety of the stories your grandmother told of days when your people roamed eating whatever the land offered. Sweet fruits, crunchy nuts, the savoury bite of a fresh kill. The village tries to make do. Your aunt experiments crushing herbs to sprinkle into the porridge, their faint bitterness a welcome change. Your neighbour soaks lentils with wild greens, creating a stew that almost feels like a feast. You learn to savour the small victories, a batch of bread that bakes evenly, a sip of goat's milk, before it's given to the children, a rare handful of dried figs traded from a passing merchant. But these are fleeting, and most days it's just you and the grains, locked in a dance that keeps you alive but never satisfied. Your teeth ache, your stomach bloats, and sometimes you wake with a dizziness that lingers until you force down another bowl of mush. The village isn't equal in its hunger. Across the river, the man with the biggest hut, the one who calls himself leader, hosts feasts that make your mouth water. You've seen them from a distance, the smoke rising from his rooftop, the scent of roasted meat drifting through the air. The men who work his fields or guard his herds sit in a circle, tearing into slabs of goat or deer, their laughter loud as they pass around clay cups of fermented grain. You and your family aren't invited, not because you're unwelcome, but because you're ordinary, one of the many who grind and sow and hope. You stand at the edge of the gathering, your sister clutching your hand, watching as the leader's children gnaw on bones, their faces smeared with grease. Your own supper waits back at the hut, another bowl of porridge maybe, with a few extra lentils if you're lucky. You try not to resent it, but the ache in your chest isn't just hunger. It's the sting of being left out, of knowing some bellies are fuller than yours. The feasts are a show away for the powerful to prove their wealth. You've heard the elders talk about it, their voices low as they knead dough or mend baskets. The leader's surplus grain, his extra goats, let him slaughter an animal without fear of starving later. Your family can't afford that risk. Every grain, every drop of milk is counted, weighed, saved. But even in your hut there are moments of defiance against the monotony. Your mother saves a small jar of honey, a treasure from a rare trade, and drizzles it over bread for your brother's birthday. The sweetness so intense it makes you laugh. Your father brings home a fish small but glistening, and you all crowd around, savouring each bite like it's a gift from the stars. These moments are rare, but they're yours, a reminder that life is more than grain and gruel. The land around you is changing, shaped by your hands and your hunger. The fields stretch wider each year, the barley and wheat pushing back the wild grasses. You help plant your small hands, pressing seeds into the earth, and you guard the harvest, chasing birds with a sling. You're part of this new world, one that promises more food, more stability, but delivers it at a cost. You dream of the travellers' stories of forests bursting with fruit, of rivers where fish leap into your hands. Their lives sound harder in some ways, always moving, never certain, but their bodies are stronger, their children taller. You wonder if your own children will know anything beyond the taste of barley, the grit of stone in their bread. At night you lie on your reed mat, the hut quiet except for the soft breathing of your family. The fire's embers glow faintly, casting shadows on the baskets of grain that line the walls. Your stomach is full, but it's a heavy fullness, the kind that sits like a stone. You think of the feast across the river, the meat you didn't taste, and then of your mother's honey, the fish your father shared. You're tired, your body worn, but you're here, part of a village that's growing, changing, surviving. You close your eyes, the taste of porridge lingering on your tongue, and promise yourself you'll find a way to make the next meal better. A new herb, a shared laugh, a moment that feels like more. For now, you rest ready to rise and face the grains again. One bowl one day, one life at a time. The first influences. Shamans and chiefs. Dust swirls around your bare feet as you stand at the edge of the village, the sun sinking behind the hills, casting long shadows over the mud huts. The air is heavy with the scent of barley fields and the faint musky smoke of a fire burning somewhere nearby. You shift the heavy basket of grain on your shoulder, your hands rough from a day spent harvesting, and watch the crowd gathering near the biggest hut in the village. It's not like yours, small and cramped. This one is wide, its walls painted with red ochre, its roof sturdy enough to hold a dozen men. From inside, a low chant rises the voice of the lawmaster, the village's spiritual guide, weaving words that make your skin prickle. Beside him stands the leader, his woven tunic finer than anything you own, a necklace of polished stones glinting at his throat. 10,000 years ago, these two run the show, and you, a common farmer, are just part of their audience, caught between awe, fear, and the ache of your empty stomach. You've known the lawmaster since you were a child. He's not like the rest of you. His hands are soft, his back unbent by years in the fields. He wears a headdress of feathers and bones, each piece swaying as he moves, and his eyes seem to see beyond the village, beyond the hills to a world you can't touch. He speaks of spirits of gods who control the rains and the harvests, and when he raises his arms, the crowd falls silent, hanging on his every word. You've seen him burn herbs in a clay bowl, the smoke curling upward as he sways, his voice rising in a song that promises a good harvest or protection from sickness. You want to believe him. Your family needs the rain, your sister's cough hasn't stopped, and the grain baskets are emptier than they should be. But doubt gnaws at you. Last year, when the rains didn't come, the lawmaster blamed the village, saying you hadn't honoured the spirits enough. You worked harder, gave up half your harvest to his rituals, and still the field stayed dry. The leader is different, but no less powerful. He's the one who organises the planting, decides who gets the best fields, and takes a share of every basket you fill. His hut is stuffed with grain, his children eat meat when yours eat porridge, and his wife wears cloth so fine it barely frays. You see him now, standing tall beside the lawmaster, his voice booming as he calls the men to a meeting on the rooftop. You're not invited, your job is to work, to give, to obey. The leader calls it leadership, says his plans keep the village strong, but you notice his calluses are fewer, his belly rounder than yours. He hoards the surplus, the extra grain you sweat for, and when times are lean, his family eats while yours tighten their belts. You grumble about it with your brother. Your voice is low in the dark of your hut, but what can you do? The leader's word is law, backed by the lawmaster's chants and the fear that disobedience will anger the spirits or leave you with nothing. The village revolves around these two, their influence woven into every part of your life. You've heard stories of a place far away, a hill called Göbekli, where massive stone pillars rise from the earth, carved with animals and symbols you can't understand. The elders say it's a place for rituals built to honour the spirits, to ensure the world keeps turning. But you know who carried those stones, who chipped them into shape, who hauled them up the hill. Not the lawmaster with his soft hands and feathered crown. Not the leader with his fine tunic and heavy necklaces. It was people like you, your neighbours, your cousins, breaking their backs under the sun, while the lawmaster chanted and the leader watched. The pillars stand tall, a testament to the village's faith, but also to your labour, your sweat, your uncounted hours. You've seen the lawmaster's rituals up close, and they're not all what they seem. Last harvest, he called the village to a ceremony, his face painted with red clay, his hands clutching a bundle of dried plants. He burned them, the smoke thick and dizzying, and as he danced, his eyes rolled back, his words tumbling out in a strange slurred song. He said he saw the spirits, that they promised rain, but you noticed the way he stumbled, the way his laughter sounded too wild. Later you found a few of those plants near his hut, their leaves bitter when you crushed them. Your uncle who knows herbs whispered, that they make you see things that aren't there, hear voices that don't speak. You wonder if the Lawmaster's visions are just dreams, his power built on smoke and leaves. But you keep quiet. Questioning him means questioning the spirits, and that's a risk you can't take. The leader and the Lawmaster live better than you, that much is clear. Their huts are larger, their meals richer, goat's milk, roasted meat, even the rare sweetness of honey. You eat porridge day after day, your teeth grinding against the grit of stone-flecked bread. Their children are taller, their skin less sallow, while your own daughter tires quickly, her small frame a reminder of the grain-heavy diet you all share. The Lawmaster's wife wears beads of green stone traded from far-off lands, while your woven tunic is patched and fraying. You work the fields, you carry the water, you build the walls, but they reap the rewards. They say it's for the village, that their rituals and leadership keep you safe, but you wonder who's really being kept safe, them or you. Still, there's something about them that holds you. The Lawmaster's chants, even if you doubt them, stir a hope in your chest, a belief that maybe the rains will come, that maybe the spirits are watching. The leader's confidence, his bold plans for new fields or stronger walls, makes you feel part of something bigger, even if you're just a small piece. The village gathers for their ceremonies, the drums pounding the firelight, dancing on painted faces, and for a moment you forget the ache in your hands, the hunger in your belly. You stand shoulder to shoulder with your neighbours, singing songs older than your grandmother, and the world feels alive, connected whole. These moments are rare, but they're powerful, binding you to the Lawmaster, the leader of the village, despite the weight of their rule. You've seen what happens to those who defy them. A man last year who refused to give his grain to the leader was shunned, his family left to beg for scraps. Another who laughed at the Lawmaster's visions fell ill soon after, and whispers spread that the spirits had cursed him. You don't know if it was spirits or just bad luck, but you know fear keeps the village in line. Fear of hunger, fear of the unknown, fear of being cast out. So you work, you give, you bow your head when the Lawmaster passes his feathers, brushing the air. You dream of a day when your daughter might live differently, when the fields might be yours, when the chance might be for everyone. But for now, you're here. A farmer in a world of influencers building their dreams with your hands. At night you lie on your mat, the hut dark except for the faint glow of embers. Your family sleeps around you, their breath soft, the village quiet beyond the walls. You think of the Lawmaster's smoke, the leader's necklace, the stones of Göbekli rising under someone else's labour. You think of the songs, the drums, the hope that keeps you going. Your hands are rough, your body tired, but you're part of this world for better or worse. You close your eyes, the chant still echoing in your mind, and promise yourself you'll keep working, keep hoping, keep living, one field, one song, one day at a time. Slavery, but make it casual. The sun burns your back as you drag a heavy stone across the rocky ground, its rough edges biting into your palms. Sweat drips into your eyes, blurring the village ahead. A cluster of mud huts nestled along the river, their flat roofs shimmering in the heat. Your muscles scream, but you keep pulling the woven rope around your waist taut as you haul the stone toward a half-built wall. You're not here by choice. A year ago, your life was different until your family's grain ran out and you borrowed from the man with the biggest hut. Now you work for him day after day, your debt a chain you can't see but feel with every step. 10,000 years ago, this is your world, and freedom is a word you barely understand. You're not called a slave, not yet, but the weight of your life says otherwise. It started with a mistake. Your brother, hungry and desperate, took a goat from the man's herd. It wasn't much, just one skinny animal, but it was enough to change everything. The man with his fine tunic and polished stone necklace didn't yell or fight. He smiled, his eyes cold, and said your family owed him. Not just the goat, your work, your time, your future. Your parents, too weak to argue, bowed their heads, and now here you are, hauling stones while the man's children play in the shade, their laughter sharp in your ears. You're not alone in this. Across the village, others are bound by similar debts, or worse, women and children taken in raids from neighbouring tribes, their faces drawn, their voices quiet. You've seen them working in the fields or hunched over grinding stones, their lives no longer their own. Your days are a blur of labour. You wake before dawn, the air cool and heavy with the smell of damp earth, and trudge to the fields or the riverbank where the man's tasks wait. Today it's stones, big uneven slabs to build a wall around his grain stores, protecting his wealth from thieves or rats. Your hands bleed, your back aches, but you keep going because stopping means no food, no shelter, no hope. Other days you dig ditches, the mud caking your legs as you carve channels to water the fields, or you grind grain, your shoulders hunched over a stone slab, the endless scrape wearing your joints to dust. The work is brutal, the kind that makes your body feel older than your years, but you have no choice. The man's family eats well, roasted goat fresh bread, even rare honey, while you're given just enough porridge to keep you moving. Its gritty taste a reminder of your place. You're not a stranger to the village, not exactly. The man calls you part of his household, says you're family now, but the word feels hollow. You sleep in a corner of his hut on a thin reed mat, while his children sprawl on woven blankets. You eat what they leave behind, scraps of bread or a thin scoop of lentils, and you wear their old tunics patched and fraying. You're allowed to sit by their fire to hear their stories, but you're not one of them. When the man's wife needs water, you fetch it. When his fields need weeding, you kneel in the dirt. You're theirs in a way that's never spoken but always felt. Some in the village are kinder, they slip you an extra piece of bread or let you rest when the man isn't looking, but kindness doesn't change the truth. You're property bound by a debt you'll never repay. You've heard stories of others like you. A woman from a rival tribe captured during a raid now works in a nearby hut, her hands trembling as she weaves baskets. A boy younger than you, taken when his village burned, spends his days herding goats, his eyes always on the horizon. They're the unlucky ones, torn from their homes, their languages fading as they learn the village's words. You're luckier in a way, you were born here, you know the paths and the people, but luck is a thin thread. You've seen what happens when the work breaks someone. A man last year, too weak to keep up, collapsed in the fields, and the village moved on, his name forgotten. You push the thought away, focusing on the stone, the rope, the next step. The village doesn't call this slavery, not in the way future generations will. There are no chains, no whips, just the quiet agreements that bind you, debts, raids, or the bad luck of being born to the wrong family. But the weight is real. You see it in the way the man's family lives, bigger, hut better food, no blisters on their hands. You see it in the fields where the hardest jobs fall to people like you, while the man's sons learn to hunt or sit in meetings on the rooftops. You hear it in the stories of the elders who speak of a time when everyone shared before some began to take more to claim power, to build walls around their grain and their lives. There's a strange hope woven into your days, small but stubborn. The family who adopted you isn't cruel, not always. The man's wife sometimes sings as she works her voice soft and you find yourself humming along. His youngest daughter, barely 3, follows you to the river, her chatter a bright spot in the endless tasks. You dream of a day when the debt might be paid, when you might work for yourself, live for yourself. The elders talk of an afterlife, a place where labour ends, where everyone eats as equals. You cling to that even if it feels far away. You've heard of villages where those like you are buried beside their owners, their tools or beads placed with them as if to honour their work. It's a grim kind of respect, one that comes too late, but it's something, a sign that your life, your sweat, isn't entirely forgotten. The village is growing, its fields stretching, its walls rising, and you're part of it even if your role is at the bottom. You haul stones that will stand for generations, dig ditches that will water crops you'll never own. You see the man's power growing, his hut larger each year, his voice louder in the village meetings. You wonder what your life might have been if you hadn't taken that goat, if your family hadn't fallen into debt. You think of the travellers who pass through free to roam their hands unscarred by stones or grain. Their lives are harder in some ways, but they answer to no one. You envy that even as you pull the rope tighter, your feet digging into the earth. At night you lie on your mat, the hut dark except for the faint glow of the fire. The family sleeps around you, their breath steady, the village quiet beyond the walls. Your body aches, your hands raw, but you're alive, and that's enough for now. You think of the stones you moved, the fields you watered, the life you're building, even if it's not yours. You dream of a day when your work might be your own, when your children might know a different world. For now you're here, bound by debt and duty, but not broken. You close your eyes, the weight of the stone still in your muscles, and promise yourself you'll keep going, one task, one day, one life at a time. Fashion, or just suffering in style. The rough-hide tunic scratches your shoulders as you trudge through the village, the midday sun baking the earth beneath your bare feet. It's heavy, this thing you call clothing, stitched from the skin of a goat your family slaughtered last year, and it smells faintly of sweat and the dusty barn where it was stored. You tug at it, hoping to ease the itch, but the coarse edges only dig deeper into your skin. Around you the village hums, children chase a stray dog, smoke curls from mud huts, and the river glints in the distance. You catch a glimpse of the village leader's wife, her tunic dyed a deep red beads of polished bone clinking at her neck. She looks like she belongs to another world, one where clothing is more than survival. 10,000 years ago, this is your wardrobe, and style is just a fancy word for hoping your outfit doesn't fall apart or give you fleas. You've worn this tunic, or ones like it, for as long as you can remember. Your mother made it her hand steady as she scraped the hide clean, soaked it, and sewed it with sinew. It's practical, warm in the chilly mornings, tough enough to withstand the thorns of the fields, but it's no friend to comfort. In winter you layer it with another hide, maybe a scrap of woven reeds if you're lucky, and huddle by the fire praying the wind doesn't sneak through the gaps. In summer like now, you sweat buckets, the heavy fabric clinging to your skin, your body begging for a breeze that never comes. You've tried lighter options. Your sister wove a tunic from flax, the fibres pounded into something resembling cloth, but it's stiff, scratchy, and tears if you move too fast. You envy the goats who seem perfectly fine without any of this nonsense. Your hands brush the belt at your waist, a simple strip of leather holding your tunic in place. It's your only accessory unless you count the dirt smudged on your arms or the calluses on your fingers. You glance again at the leader's wife, her beads catching the sunlight, each one a tiny treasure, shells from a far-off river, bones polished to a gleam, even a rare green stone that must have come from a trader. She's not alone in her finery. The lawmaster, the village's spiritual guide, wears a cloak fringed with feathers, his wrists wrapped in cords of dyed wool. The leader himself sports a necklace of animal teeth, each one a story of a hunt he probably didn't make. These are the elites, the ones who don't break their backs in the fields and their clothing screams it. You, a common farmer, make do with your hide sack of a tunic patched where it tore last month and call it good enough. The village has its own kind of fashion, though it's more about survival than swagger. Your neighbour weaves baskets from reeds, and sometimes she twists the leftovers into a rough shawl, draping it over her shoulders like a queen. Your brother, who herds goats, wears a cap of matted wool to keep the sun off his face, though it smells like the animals he tends. You've learned to make your own repairs, stitching new hides when the old ones wear thin, or patching them with scraps of flax. It's work like everything else, but there's a quiet pride in it. Last spring you helped your mother dye a strip of cloth with crushed berries, turning it a faint purple. You wore it for a festival, feeling almost as grand as the leader's wife until it faded in the wash. Still for one night you shone. Then there's the body art, the kind of style that's less about beauty and more about proving you can handle pain. You've seen the lawmaster's arms covered in swirling patterns etched into his skin, the lines raised and dark from years of rituals. Your cousin who joined a hunting group came back with a scar on his chest, a deliberate cut shaped like a star marking him as brave. You're too young for that, but the women in the village talk about it zammin. They call it carving or pricking the skin with sharp stones or thorns, rubbing ash or plant juice to make the mark stay. It's a status thing, a way to show you belong to honour the spirits or your family. You've watched the process, heard the sharp gasps of pain, seen the swollen red skin afterward. Your aunt, who bears a spiral on her shoulder, says it's worth it, but you're not so sure. The elders warn that some never heal right, the wounds turning hot and angry, leaving scars that ache for years. You touch your own unmarked arm, wondering if you'll ever be bold enough, or if you'll just stick to your itchy tunic. The risks of fashion aren't just in the pain. You've heard stories of those who pushed too far, their exam done with dirty tools, their skin swelling until they burned with fever. The lawmaster chants over them, burns herbs to drive out the sickness, but sometimes the spirits don't listen. You've seen the graves, small piles of earth outside the village, where those who chase beauty or status now rest. It's a grim reminder that even style comes with a price. You think of the leader's wife, her beads so perfect, and wonder if she ever worries about such things. Probably not. Her hands don't touch the thorns or the ash. Her job is to shine while yours is to survive. The village is a patchwork of these differences. The elites with their dyed cloth and glittering beads walk taller, their finery a sign of power. You and your neighbours make do with what you have, hides flax, the occasional woven reed, and find ways to make it your own. You braid your sister's hair with strips of dyed wool, a small act of defiance against the plainness of your tunic. Your father carves a tiny bone pendant for your mother, a rough circle that she wears proudly, even if it's not as fine as the leader's. These are your treasures, hard-won and deeply yours, and they matter more than any shell or stone. The seasons shape your wardrobe as much as your hands do. In the cold months, you pile on every hide you own, your breath visible in the air, your fingers numb despite the layers. In the heat you shed what you can, but the tunic stays a sweaty second skin you can't escape. You dream of something lighter, softer, something that doesn't smell like the goat it came from. You've heard of tradesmen who bring cloth from far away woven so fine it feels like water, but that's for the elites, not for you. Your world is practical, your clothing a tool to keep you warm, dry, alive. But you still notice the way the leader's wife moves her dyed tunic swaying, and you wonder what it's like to wear something that makes people stare. At night, you sit by the fire mending your tunic with a bone needle, the flickering light casting shadows on the hut's walls. Your family is around you, your sister humming as she weaves a new mat, your father sharpening a tool. You pull the sinew through the hide, your fingers sore but steady, and think about the village, the elites with their beads, the lawmaster with his scars, you with your patched tunic and braided belt. You're part of this world, even if your place is small. You dream of a day when you might wear something brighter, when your daughter might have beads of her own. For now you're here dressed in survival, stitching your life together one thread at a time. Love marriage and other disasters. The fire crackles in the centre of your family's mud hut, casting flickering shadows on the rough walls as you sit on a woven reed mat, mending a tear in your tunic. The air smells of smoke and barley porridge, and outside the village hums with evening sounds, goats, bleating children, laughing, the distant murmur of the river. You're barely 14, your hands already calloused from grinding grain and weaving, but tonight your mother's words weigh heavier than any basket. She sits across from you, her eyes soft but serious, and says it's time. Time to leave your family to join another hut to become a wife. Your heart thumps, not with excitement, but with a quiet dread. 10,000 years ago, love is a luxury, and marriage is a deal sealed with goats' land and your family's hopes, not your own. You've known this day was coming. In the village, girls like you don't stay long in their parents' huts. Your older sister was married off 2 summers ago, traded to a family with a herd of sheep and a patch of fertile land across the river. You remember her face tight with worry as she packed her few belongings, a woven blanket, a bone comb, a clay bowl. She didn't choose her husband, a broad-shouldered man with a loud laugh and a hut bigger than yours. Your father said it was a good match, that the sheep would feed you all through lean times. Your mother whispered to you later, her voice low, that your sister would be safe, cared for. But you saw the way she looked back as she left her steps heavy, and you wonder if safe is enough. Now it's your turn, and the man your parents have chosen waits in a neighbouring hut, his family offering 5 goats and a share of their barley fields. You've seen him tall and quiet, his hands scarred from herding. He's not cruel, not from what you know, but he's not yours, not in the way your heart dreams. Marriage here isn't about love, not the kind you imagine when you steal moments by the river, watching the water ripple under the stars. It's a bargain, a way to tie families together, to share resources, to survive. Your parents need the goats to replace the ones lost to sickness last winter. The barley fields will mean more bread, fewer nights of hunger. You're the bridge, the one who makes it happen. Your mother says you'll have a good life, that the man's family is strong, that you'll have children to fill your days. But you feel the weight of it, the way your life is no longer just yours. You've heard stories of girls who refused, who ran to the hills or begged their families to wait. Most were brought back their choices, ignored, their futures set by hands stronger than their own. You don't run, you nod your fingers trembling as you stitch and try to picture a life in a stranger's hut. Your days are already full, and marriage will only add to the load. You've seen your sister now, a mother, her hands never still grinding, grain, nursing a baby, weaving cloth, tending the fire. She was 15 when her first child came, her face pale from the long night of pain. You were there holding her hand, fetching water, while the women of the village chanted for her strength. She survived her baby, small but healthy, and the village celebrated with bread and milk. But not all are so lucky. Your cousin married last year didn't make it through her first birth, her breath fading as the baby cried. The elders say it's the way of the world, that children are a gift, but the cost is high. You're strong, your mother says, built for this life, but the fear lingers, a shadow you can't shake. You'll marry soon, and children will follow, each one a hope and a risk. The village isn't without love, even if it's hard to find. You've seen it in small moments. Your parents sharing a quiet laugh by the fire, your neighbour brushing a strand of hair from his wife's face, their hands touching briefly as they work. You've heard of graves where couples were buried together, their hands entwined as if they couldn't bear to part even in death. These stories warm you, make you hope that something real might grow in the hut you're bound for. You've caught the man's eyes once when you passed him at the river, and there was a softness there, a hint of something more. But life is work survival, and there's little time for soft glances or whispered words. You'll share a hut, a fire, a life, and maybe if you're lucky, something like love will bloom between the tasks. The village's rules favour the men, especially the powerful ones. The leader with his big hut and many goats has 2 wives, their laughter mingling as they weave under his roof. Your uncle says it's a sign of wealth that only a man with surplus grain can feed more than one family. You see the wives' children well fed and strong, playing with beads their father traded for. Your own marriage will be simpler, 1 man, 1 wife, 1 struggle. But you wonder about the women who share a husband, their lives tangled in ways you can't imagine. You've heard your mother talk of women who outlive their husbands, their graves filled with tools and beads, signs of a life well lived. Your aunt, widowed twice now, runs her own hut, her hand steady as she teaches you to weave. She's proof that women can outlast the men who trade goats for their futures. Your role in the village is clear, but it's not the whole story. You work alongside your mother, your hand shaping breadcloth life itself. You'll carry that strength into your new hut, into the children you'll raise, the home you'll build. You dream of teaching your own daughter to weave, to laugh, to find joy in the small things, a dyed cloth, a shared meal, a moment of quiet by the river. You want her to know love, not just duty, to feel her life is hers, even if the village decides her match. For now, you're caught in the deal your parents made, the goats already grazing in your family's pen, the barley fields promised for next season. The night deepens and you set your mending aside, the tunic patched but still rough against your skin. Your family sleeps around you, their breath soft, the fire's embers glowing faintly. You think of the man you'll marry, his quiet eyes, the hut you'll share. You think of your sister, her baby's small hand in hers, and your aunt strong and alone, her life her own. You think of the grave's hands clasped forever, and wonder if love will find you, if it will be enough. Your heart is heavy, but it's yours, and you carry it with the same strength that grinds, grain weaves, cloth builds a life. You close your eyes, the village quiet beyond the walls, and promise yourself you'll find a way to make this marriage more than a trade one day, one step, one life at a time. Medicine, or just vibes, and the ache in your head throbs like a drum, sharp and relentless, as you sit on the dirt floor of your family's mud hut. The air is thick with the smell of smoke and damp earth, the fire in the corner casting flickering shadows on the rough walls. Outside, the village hums with evening sounds, goats bleating, the soft rush of the river, but inside your world is this pain growing worse with each heartbeat. Your mother, her hand stained from crushing herbs, presses a damp cloth to your forehead and murmurs words of comfort. She's sent for the village healer, the lawmaster who claims to speak to the spirits. You've seen him before, his feathered headdress swaying as he chants, and you hope he brings something, anything, to make this stop. 10,000 years ago, medicine is a mix of hope, herbs, and a whole lot of guesswork, and you're about to find out if it's enough to save you. Your mother hands you a small bundle of leaves, their bitter scent stinging your nose. "Chew these," she says, her voice steady but her eyes worried. The leaves are from a willow tree by the river, one of her remedies for pain. You force them down, grimacing at the sharp taste, and feel a faint easing in your head, though the ache lingers. Your mother knows plants willow for pain, mint for upset stomachs, yarrow for cuts, and she's tended you through fevers and scrapes since you were small. She learned from her own mother, who learned from hers, a quiet chain of women who mix leaves and roots to keep the village breathing. But her knowledge isn't enough for this, not when the pain feels like it's splitting your skull. The lawmaster with his chants and rituals is the one the village turns to when things get serious, even if you've seen his cures fail as often as they work. The lawmaster arrives, his cloak fringed with bones, clinking softly, his face painted with red clay. He kneels beside you, his eyes narrowing as he studies your face. He mutters something about spirits, about a shadow in your head that needs to be freed, and your stomach twists with fear. You've heard the stories of people like you with pains that wouldn't stop, taken to the edge of the village where the lawmaster uses his tools. Not just herbs or splints, but something more drastic, a sharp stone, a steady hand, a hole carved into the skull to let the bad spirits out. Your neighbour's brother went through it last year, his head wrapped in cloth for weeks, but he lived his smile crooked but real. Others weren't so lucky, their graves small and quiet outside the village. You swallow hard, hoping it doesn't come to that, hoping the willow leaves and the lawmaster's chants are enough. The village's medicine is a patchwork of effort and faith. For a toothache, you chew bitter roots or press a hot stone against your jaw, wincing through the pain. For a broken arm like the one your brother got when he fell from a tree, your mother tied it with sticks and cloth, whispering for strength as he healed. Fevers call for teas brewed from herbs, their steam rising as your family gathers, their hands gentle but their faces tight with worry. Childbirth. The women's domain is a dance of skill and hope. Your aunt, with her steady hands, guides new mothers through the long nights, mixing herbs to ease pain and chanting for the spirit's favour. But not every birth ends in joy. You've seen the small graves, the mothers who didn't wake, and you know the risks are part of this world, as real as the grain you grind or the water you carry. The lawmaster's role is different, more show than substance, though you'd never say it aloud. He burns herbs, their smoke thick and dizzying, and dances around the sick, his voice rising in a song that promises healing. You've seen people sit up after his rituals, their eyes brighter, but you wonder if it's the herbs, the hope, or just time doing the work. Your mother's remedies, quiet and practical, seem to help more, but the village doesn't gather for her, doesn't offer her the best grain or the biggest hut. Her knowledge is vital. Every family relies on women like her to soothe burns, stitch wounds, ease births. But it's the law master who gets the praise, his feathers and chants a symbol of power the women don't claim. You've heard your aunt grumble about it, her hands crushing mint as she mutters that her teas save more lives than his dances, but she keeps her head down, her work steady. Your headache pulses and the law master decides it's serious. He calls for his tools and your heart sinks. He kneels beside you, a sharp stone in his hand, its edge glinting in the firelight. Your mother grips your hand, her fingers trembling, and whispers that you're strong, that you'll be fine. The lawmaster chants, his voice low and rhythmic, and you feel the cold stone against your scalp. You close your eyes, fear mixing with the pain, and focus on your mother's touch, the warmth of the hut, the hope that this will work. The process is quick but agonizing, a pressure that makes you gasp, and then it's over. The lawmaster wraps your head in clean cloth, his chants fading as he tells you the spirits are free now. You're dizzy, weak, but alive, and the pain is less, though you're not sure if it's the hole in your skull or the relief of surviving. Days pass and you heal your head tender, but your strength returning. Your mother tends you with her teas and cloths, her quiet care a lifeline. You learn later that some survive this, their skull showing new bone, where the hole was cut, a sign of the body's stubborn will to live. You're one of the lucky ones, and you carry the scar like a badge, a story you'll tell your own children someday. But you know not everyone makes it, some fall to fever. Some to the lawmaster's mistakes their graves a reminder of medicine's limits. You think of your mother's herbs, her steady hands, and wish the village saw her as they see the lawmaster with his feathers and his stones. The village keeps moving its people, tending wounds, brewing teas, chanting for health. You're part of it, your scar a mark of survival, your mother's knowledge a quiet strength. You dream of a day when healing is surer, when women like her are honoured, when pain doesn't demand such risks. For now you're here alive in a world of herbs and hopes carrying your story forward. You sit by the fire, your mother's hand on your shoulder, and feel the ache in your head fade, one breath, one day, one life at a time. The 1% Village Elites. The sun hangs low over the village, painting. The mud hut's golden as you haul a basket of barley across the dusty path. Your arms ache, your hands rough from a day spent harvesting under the relentless heat, and the coarse hide of your tunic scratches your skin. Ahead, the biggest hut in the village looms, its walls thicker than yours, its roof wide enough to hold a feast. Smoke curls from its centre, carrying the rich scent of roasted goat, a luxury your family hasn't tasted in months. You pause, wiping sweat from your brow, and watch the leader stride out, his woven tunic dyed a deep red, beads of polished bone clinking at his neck. His children trail behind their cheeks, full, their laughter bright. 10,000 years ago, this is the village elite, the first 1%, and you, a common farmer, live in their shadow, working so they can shine. You've known the leader's family all your life, but they're a world apart. Their hut is a palace compared to yours, with the room for baskets overflowing with gauze-grain clay jars of dried herbs, even a woven mat dyed with rare blue from crushed shells. They eat well meat most nights, bread soft and free of grit, sometimes a sweet paste made from honey, traded from far-off lands. Your own meals are porridge day after day, the same lumpy barley you grow with a handful of lentils if you're lucky. Your hands are blistered, your back bent from the fields, but the leader's hands are smooth, his only labour, the meetings he holds on his rooftop, his voice booming as he decides who plants where, who gets water, who goes hungry when the harvests fail. He calls it leadership, says the spirits chose him, and the village nods, because what else can you do? The lawmaster, the village's spiritual guide, is no different. He lives in a hut nearly as grand, its walls painted with swirling ochre patterns, a gift from the spirits he claims. His feathered headdress sways as he walks, his wrists wrapped in cords of dyed wool, and he carries a staff carved with symbols you don't understand. He doesn't plough or reap, doesn't carry water or grind grain. His work is chanting, burning herbs, promising rain or health, in exchange for your offerings, baskets of barley, a goat the best of what you have. You've given to him your family's stores, shrinking because his words hold power. When the rains come, he takes credit. When they don't, he blames the village, saying you've angered the spirits. You grumble with your neighbors, your voice is low in the dark, but fear keeps you in line. Fear of the spirits, fear of hunger, fear of losing what little you have. These elites, the leader, the lawmaster, the few families with the most grain control the village's heart. They hold the surplus, the extra baskets you sweat for stored in pits lined with stones, or guarded by walls you helped build. When the river runs low or the fields dry up, they decide who gets a share and who tightens their belt. You've seen it the way the leader's family eats, while others' children grow thin, their eyes hollow. You've heard the elders whisper of a time when sharing was equal before some began to hoard to claim more to call it their right. The leader says the spirits bless his rule, that his strength keeps the village safe. The lawmaster backs him his chance, weaving a story of divine favour. You want to believe it, but the ache in your hands, the hunger in your belly tells a different story. The village is built on your labour, but the elites reap the rewards. You plough the fields, you carry the stones, you weave the cloth, but they live in comfort, their lives a step above yours. Their children don't work at 5, don't haul water or herd goats. They play their tunics clean, their meals steady. You watch them sometimes, a pang in your chest. Not anger, not exactly, but a wish that your own daughter could know such ease. The elites' huts are warm in winter, their fires fed by wood you cut. Their bodies are strong, their faces less lined, while your own frame is worn, your years shorter than theirs. You wonder what makes them different, why their grain baskets are full while yours dwindle, why their voices carry while yours are lost in the dust. The graves tell the story clearest. You've seen the burials, the way the elites are laid to rest with treasures, clay pots painted with care, spears with flint tips, necklaces of shells and stones that gleam in the firelight. The lawmaster's father, buried last spring, was sent off with a woven blanket, a jar of honey beads that must have taken months to craft. You stood with the village singing for his spirit, but you noticed the difference. When your own father passed, his grave was simple, a patch of earth, a small stone, nothing to mark his life but the calluses on his hands. You and your neighbours are buried with little, your regrets heavier than any jewel. The elites' graves are a flex, a final show of wealth, a way to carry their power into the next world. But even the elites aren't untouchable. You've heard stories whispered by the elders of graves disturbed long ago, pots broken, beads, scattered bones left bare under the stars. Someone, maybe a rival, maybe a hungry villager, took what the elites thought was theirs forever. You smile at the thought, a small spark of justice in a world that tilts toward the powerful. The leaders' fine tunic, the lawmasters' beads, their big huts, they're not eternal. The earth takes back what it gives, and you find comfort in that. Even as you haul another basket, your hands raw, your back bowed. The village keeps growing, its fields wider, its walls stronger, and you're part of it, even if your place is small. You work for the elites, but you also work for your family, your neighbours, the future. You hope your daughter will see. You dream of a day when the grain is shared, when the huts are equal, when your labour buys more than porridge and pain. For now you live in their shadow, but you're not invisible. You carry the village on your shoulders, and that's a power they can't claim. You pause by your hut, the basket heavy, and look at the leader's home, its red walls glowing in the dusk. You're tired, but you're here and you'll keep going. One basket one day, one life at a time. War. But make it personal. The dawn air is cool against your skin as you stand at the edge of your village gripping a stone-tipped spear, its weight heavy in your calloused hands. The mud huts behind you are quiet, their fires smouldering, but tension hums like a tightened cord. Across the valley, another village's smoke rises a faint thread against the hills, and your heart pounds with a mix of fear and anger. Last week they stole 3 of your goats, precious animals. Your family spent years tending and left a trail of trampled crops. Your brother wants revenge, his voice sharp as he sharpens his axe, and the elders whisper of a raid to take back what's yours. 10,000 years ago. This is war, not armies or treaties, but a personal grudge, a stolen goat, a fight that could end with blood on the earth. You've known the other village all your life. They're not strangers, not exactly. You've traded with them, shared stories at the river, even laughed with their young herders over a shared handful of berries. But things change fast. A dry season shrinks the fields, a bad harvest empties the grain baskets, and suddenly every goat, every patch of land is worth fighting for. Your village has clashed with them before, over a water spring 2 summers ago, over a hunting ground last winter. No one calls it war, not the way future generations will, but the scars tell the story: your uncle's limp from a sling stone, your neighbour's empty hut after a raid took her family. This time it's your goats, your pride, and you feel the pull to act to protect what's yours. even if it means facing spears in the dark. Your weapon is simple but deadly, a wooden spear tipped with flint, its edge honed until it glints in the sun. Your brother carries an axe, its stone head tied tight with sinew, and others in the village wield slings, their pouches filled with smooth river rocks. You've practiced with them, sending stones whizzing through the air, aiming for trees or rabbits. Now the target might be a person, someone with a face you know, and the thought twists your stomach. You've seen what these weapons do: a cracked skull, a pierced side, a body still under the dust. The elders say the spirits guide your hand, that protecting the village is righteous, but you wonder if the spirits care whose blood soaks the ground. The raid comes at dusk when the light is soft and the other village is eating. You move quietly, your feet bare on the earth, your breath shallow. Your brother leads, his eyes fierce, and a dozen others follow, their faces painted with clay to blend into the shadows. The plan is simple: take the goats, maybe some grain, and get out. But plans unravel fast. A shout splits the air, a dog barks, and suddenly you're running, your spear raised as figures emerge from the huts. Stones fly, one grazing your shoulder, sharp enough to draw blood. You swing your spear, catching a man's arm, and he stumbles, his cry loud in your ears. It's chaos, shouts, thuds, the crack of wood on bone. You don't think, just move your heart a drum, your hands acting before your mind can catch up. You make it back panting with 2 goats and a basket of grain, but the victory is bitter. Your cousin didn't return, his body left in the valley, a spear wound in his chest. The village mourns your aunt's wails echoing through the night, but there's no time to grieve. The other village will come for you maybe tomorrow, maybe next moon, and you'll stand again, spear in hand, ready to fight for what's yours. You've heard of worse: entire villages burned, their people gone, their bones buried in pits with no names. Men, women, children, no one is safe when the fighting starts. You've seen the graves, shallow and hurried, filled with families who didn't run fast enough. It's not war as the future will know it, but it's real, raw, personal. Some don't die but lose their freedom. You've seen captives brought back from raids, their wrists bound with leather, their eyes wide with fear. A woman from the valley village now works in your neighbour's hut, her hands grinding grain, her voice silent. A boy younger than you tends goats for the leader, his home a memory. They're not called slaves, not yet, but they're not free. Some are kept for work, others offered in rituals, their lives a gift to the spirits, the elders say. You don't like to think about it, the way their eyes follow you, the way their stories end. You focus on your spear, your village, your family, because thinking too much makes the world feel heavier than it already is. You bear the marks of these fights. Your shoulder stings where the stone hit a bruise blooming purple under your skin. Your brother's arm is scarred from an older raid, a jagged line he wears with pride. You've seen the bones of those who fell, their arms raised as if to block a blow, their hands clenched in a final fight. They didn't go quietly, and that matters. You imagine them standing tall, swinging their axes, refusing to break. It's a kind of courage, a spark that lives in your village, in you. You're not just fighting for goats or grain, you're fighting for your home, your people, the life you're building on this hard, dusty earth. The village carries on, its fields green, its huts standing, but the threat never fades. You learn to watch the horizon, to listen for strange sounds in the night. You teach your younger sister to hold a sling, her small hands clumsy but determined. You share stories with your neighbours, not of peace, but of survival, of the time you took back the goats, of the cousin who fought until his last breath. The elders say the spirits watch, that they honour the brave, but you wonder if peace is possible, if the villages could share the river, the land, the goats. For now it's you and your spear, your village against theirs, a cycle of theft and blood that feels as old as the hills. At night you sit by the fire, mending the tear in your tunic, the village quiet except for the soft bleats of the goats you fought for. Your family is around you, your mother's hand steady as she kneads dough, your brother's axe resting by the wall. You think of the raid, the man you wounded, the cousin you lost. You think of the graves, the captives, the bones that fought back. Your shoulder aches, but you're here alive, part of this world. You dream of a day when the spears can rest, when the valley is quiet, when your children might know a different life. For now you sharpen your flint, hold your sister close and keep going. One fight, one day, one life at a time. Religion, or how to scam a village. The sun dips below the hills, painting the sky a deep orange. As you haul a massive stone across the rocky ground, your hands roar from the rough rope tied around your waist. Sweat stings your eyes and your back aches, but you keep pulling, your village's chants rising behind you. The air carries the scent of dust and burning herbs, a sharp reminder of the lawmaster leading this effort, his feathered headdress swaying as he sings to the spirits. He says, this stone, this circle you're building on a distant hill will please the gods, bring rain, make the harvests grow. You want to believe a him? Your family's grain baskets are nearly empty, and the river runs lower each year, but the weight of the stone feels heavier than his promises. 10,000 years ago, religion is the heartbeat of your village, and you're sweating for it, building a dream that's not quite yours. You've grown up with the spirits. They're everywhere, in the wind that rattles the reeds, the river that feeds your fields, the stars that light your nights. Your mother taught you to leave a handful of grain by the hearth for the ancestors, their presence a quiet comfort in the hut. The elders tell stories of the earth's power of gods who shape the seasons, who demand respect or send drought to punish the careless. You feel it too when you walk the fields, the soil warm under your feet, or when a storm rolls in its thunder like a voice from beyond. But it's the Lawmaster who shapes these beliefs, who turns the spirits into something you can see, touch, fear. He dances under the moon, his voice rising with the drums, and tells you the gods speak through him, that your work, your offerings keep the world turning. The Lawmaster's rituals are a spectacle. Last harvest he gathered the village at the riverbank, his face painted with red clay, his hands clutching a bundle of herbs that smoked and sputtered in the fire. He chanted, his body swaying, and said the spirits demanded a new place of worship, a circle of stones far from the village where the gods could rest. You stood with your neighbours, your heart pounding, caught between awe and doubt. The Lawmaster's words have power. He's brought rain before, or so he claims, and his rituals ease the villagers' fears. But you've also seen him take the best grain, the fattest goats, as gifts for the spirits, his hut growing larger while yours stays small. You wonder how much the gods eat, how much they need, and why the Lawmaster's family never goes hungry. The stone you're hauling is part of that dream, a place the elders call sacred, like the great hill far away where massive pillars stand carved with animals and symbols. You've never seen it, but the stories say it's a place of power built by hands like yours, people who left their fields to raise stones for the spirits. Your own village's circle is smaller, but it's no less demanding. You spend days cutting stones, dragging them, setting them upright, your hands blistered, your body worn. The Lawmaster doesn't lift a stone, he walks among you chanting, burning herbs, promising the gods are watching. The leader with his fine tunic and beaded necklace watches too, his voice urging you to work harder, saying the village's future depends on it. You work because you must, because the spirits might be real, because the village believes, because a stopping means going against everything that holds you together. The gods ask for more than stones. You've brought offerings to the Lawmaster's rituals, baskets of barley clay pots. You shaped yourself a woven blanket your mother spent months crafting. You give because the Lawmaster says it pleases the spirits, because you've seen the rains come after a good offering, because you're afraid of what happens if you don't. The village has given bigger things too, goats their throats cut as the Lawmaster sings their blood soaking the earth to ensure a good harvest. You've heard whispers of more, of people from rival villages, captives taken, in raids offered to the gods in ways no one speaks aloud. You don't ask questions, don't linger on the thought, but it sits heavy in your chest, a shadow you can't shake. The work is unpaid, of course. You leave your fields, your family, your own needs, to build for the spirits while the Lawmaster and the leader grow stronger. Their huts are full, their children fed, their lives untouched by the blisters you carry. You've heard your brother mutter about it, his voice low as he sharpens his axe, saying the gods seem to favour the powerful. You feel it too, the way the Lawmaster's rituals lift the village's hopes, but fill his own baskets first. Yet you keep working because the spirits might be watching, because the village needs this, because doubt is a luxury you can't afford. The circle rises stone by stone, a testament to your faith, your fear, your hands. The elders say these places last forever, that the gods will remember your work, that your children's children will pray here. But you've heard other stories of sacred sites left to crumble their stones, toppled their circles, swallowed by grass. The great hill, the one with the carved pillars, was abandoned long ago, its builders gone, its gods silent. You wonder if your own circle will stand, if the spirits will care, if all this sweat will mean anything when you're dust. The thought stings, but it also sparks a quiet defiance. You're building something, even if it's for the Lawmaster's dreams, even if the gods don't answer. Your hands, your village, your will, they're real and they matter. The village lives for these beliefs, for the rituals that bind you. You gather for the Lawmaster's dances, your voices rising with the drums, your feet moving in the firelight. You feel the spirits then, or something close, a connection to the earth, to your ancestors, to the people beside you. It's not just the Lawmaster's show, it's yours, too. A moment when the world feels bigger than your hut, your hunger, your tired hands. You hold on to that even as you drag another stone, even as you give another basket to the gods who never speak. You dream of a day when the village might share its burdens, when the spirits might ask less, when your work might be for you. At night, you lie on your mat, the hut dark except for the faint glow of embers. Your family sleeps around you, their breath soft, the village quiet beyond the walls. You think of the stones you moved, the chants you sang, the gods you hope to please. Your hands are sore, your body heavy, but you're here, part of this world. You dream of a time when the circles stand for everyone, when the lawmaster's words lift all, when your children might know a different faith. For now you're a builder, a believer, a villager carrying the spirit's weight, one stone, one song, one life at a time. The invisible worker's women's labour. The morning sun barely crests the hills, but your hands are already moving, pressing a smooth stone against a slab of rock, grinding barley into flour. The scrape of the stone fills the mud-walled hut, blending with the soft coos of your baby cradled in a sling against your chest. Your shoulders ache, your knees protest from hours knelt on the hard dirt floor, but you keep going, the rhythm as familiar as your heartbeat. Around you the village stirs, goats' bleat smoke curls from neighbouring huts, and the river murmurs in the distance. You pause to wipe sweat from your brow, your fingers brushing the rough weave of your tunic, and glance at your daughter toddling nearby, mimicking your motions with a stick. 10,000 years ago, you're the backbone of this village, your labour, its lifeblood, but your name, it's barely a whisper in the wind. Your day began before dawn, stirring the fire to life, its smoke stinging your eyes as you kneaded dough for flatbread. You baked it on a hot stone, careful not to burn your fingers, and handed pieces to your children, their small hands eager. Then came the weaving your fingers, threading flax through a loom, crafting cloth for tunics and blankets. The work is slow, your hands cramping, but the sight of a finished piece, a tight even weave, sparks a quiet pride. You fetch water from the river, the heavy clay jar balanced on your shoulder, your step steady despite the weight. You sweep the hut, chasing dust and straw, and mend a cracked pot, your hands shaping wet clay to seal the break. Every task is yours, from nursing the baby to milking the goats, their stubborn kicks testing your patience. You're a mother, a cook, a weaver, a potter, a keeper of life, and this village leans on you even if it doesn't see you. Your body bears the marks of this work. Your knees creak worn from years of grinding, your fingers stiff from weaving, your back curved from carrying water and children. You're young, not yet 30, but your joints ache like the elders, a dull pain that settles in at night. You've seen the grinding stones, their surfaces smoothed to a shine from countless hours of your hands, your mother's hands, her mother's before her. Your aunt who taught you to weave moves slower. Now her fingers gnarled, her shoulders hunched. You know this is your future too, but you push the thought aside, focusing on the flour, the cloth, the fire. You're strong, stronger than you look, and your work holds the village together even if no one sings your name. The village depends on women like you, but it doesn't always show it. The men hunt or herd their returns marked with stories and laughter, their kills celebrated with feasts. The leader, with his big hut and beaded necklace, calls meetings on the rooftops, his voice shaping the fields, the water, the future. The lawmaster, with his feathered headdress, chants for the spirits, his rituals drawing the village's awe. You're in the hut, the field, the riverbank, your hands never still your work, the foundation they build on. You've heard the elders praise the hunters, the leader, the lawmaster, but your labour, grinding the grain they eat, weaving the cloth they wear, shaping the pots they use is a given, like the earth itself. You smile when your neighbour calls you clever for a new weaving pattern, but it's a fleeting nod lost in the endless cycle of tasks. Yet there are moments when your work shines, even if the village doesn't always see it. You've learned to shape clay into pots, your fingers pressing patterns into the wet surface, swirls, lines, dots that tell stories of the river, the stars, the spirits. Your mother says these designs are sacred, that they carry the village's soul, and you've seen them used in rituals placed by the lawmaster's fire as offerings to the gods. You feel a spark of pride knowing your hands made something holy, something that will outlast you. But the pride fades when you return to the hut, sweeping the floor, nursing the baby, grinding more grain. Your pots may be sacred, but you're still the one scrubbing the ashes from the hearth. The village honours you in its own way, sometimes too late. You've seen the graves of women like you, their bodies laid with care, their tools beside them, a grinding stone, a weaving shuttle, a clay pot. Your aunt buried last spring rested with her favourite spindle, a bead necklace you helped string a sign her work mattered. It's a quiet respect, one that comes when your hands can no longer work, when your voice is still. In life, you're the one who keeps the village spinning, but the credit goes elsewhere to the men who hunt the leader, who speaks the law master, who chants. You've heard your mother laugh about it, her voice dry, saying the spirits must love men's voices more. You laugh too, but there's an ache beneath it, a wish to be seen, to be known. Your work is a legacy, even if it's invisible. The cloth you weave wraps your children, the pots you shape hold your family's meals, the grain you grind feeds the village. You teach your daughter to knead dough, to thread the loom, to press patterns into small hands, learning the rhythms of your life. You tell her stories of the women before you, their strength woven into every basket, every pot, every loaf. You dream of a day when her work might be praised, when her name might be sung, when the village might see what you see, that women are the roots, the fire, the heart of this world. The day stretches on and you move from grinding to weaving, from cooking to caring your hands, never idle. Your daughter clings to your tunic, her laughter a bright note in the endless tasks. You pause to braid her hair, your fingers gentle, and feel a surge of love, of purpose. The village may not see you, but your family does, and that's enough for now. You think of the pots you've made, their patterns sacred, their clay holding your stories. You think of the graves, the tools, the women who came before. You're part of their chain, your labour a thread in the village's story, even if it's untold. At night you sit by the fire, mending a basket, the hut warm with the breaths of your sleeping family. The village is quiet, the stars bright beyond the smoke hole. You think of the grain you ground, the cloth you wove, the pots you shaped. Your hands are sore, your body tired, but you're here alive, essential. You dream of a time when women's work is honoured, when your daughter's hands are seen, when your labour is more than invisible. For now you're the heart of the village, beating unseen, carrying life forward, one task, one day, one life at a time. Animals, friends, or food. The morning chill bites your bare arms as you step out of your mud-walled hut, the village stirring under a pale dawn sky. A scruffy dog, all bones and patchy fur, trots at your heels, its sharp eyes scanning the dirt path. You toss it a scrap of stale bread from last night's meal and it snaps it up, tail wagging, just enough to show it's not entirely wild. Beyond the huts, your family's goats bleat in their pen, their warm bodies pressed close, while a pair of sheep graze nearby, their wool matted with dust. The air smells of damp earth and animal dung, a scent as familiar as your own breath. 10,000 years ago, animals are your lifeline, your wealth, your labour, your next meal, but they're not your pets, not in the way you'd hope. They're partners in survival, and sometimes you're not sure who's working harder. You've known the dog or its kin since you were a child. It's not like the fluffy creatures you imagine in dreams. It's lean, its ribs sharp under its skin, its teeth bared when strangers come too close. Your father says dogs were the first to join your people long ago, drawn to the scraps around your fires. They earned their keep, helping hunt rabbits or deer, their barks warning of prowlers in the night. You rely on this one calling it to your side when you herd goats or check the fields, its quick paws flushing out birds that threaten your crops. It's not cuddly, you don't stroke its fur or let it sleep by your mat, but it's yours, a shadow that follows you loyal in its own rough way. You toss it another scrap, knowing it's as hungry as you are, and wonder if it sees you as a friend or just a source of food. The goats are a different story. They are your family's pride, a living treasure that means milk, meat and hides. You don't name them names, are for people not wealth, but you know each one by its quirks, the one with the crooked horn that butts you, the one that nibbles your tunic when you're not looking. You milk them at dawn, your hands coaxing warm streams into a clay bowl, the liquid a gift for your children. You shear their coarse hair, spinning it into thread for ropes or mats. When times are lean, one might become a meal, its meat roasted over the fire, a rare feast that makes your mouth water. You don't love them. Not the way you love your sister's laugh, but you care for them. Your days shaped by their needs, leading them to grass, mending their pen, guarding them from thieves or wolves. The sheep and cattle are even more valuable, a sign of your village's strength. The sheep's wool makes the warmest cloth, their milk richer than the goats. The cattle, slow and stubborn, pull heavy loads, their strength, saving your back when you move stones or plough fields. They're too precious to eat often, but their dung is gold dried and burned. It keeps your fire alive, its smoky scent filling the hut. You've learned to stack the dung carefully, your hands caked with it, a job as vital as grinding grain. These animals are your bank, your muscle, your survival, and you watch them like a mother knowing a single loss could mean hunger for your family. The village depends on these creatures, but it's not a gentle bond. You don't pet the goats or coo at the sheep, they're work, not friends. You drive them to pastures, your stick ready to nudge them back in line, and you're quick to slaughter when need arises. The dog gets scraps, but if the grain runs out, it might become a meal itself, though the thought makes you flinch. You've seen it happen in lean winters when every mouth was a burden. The animals give you life, but they demand it too: grass to eat, water to drink, pens to build. You've noticed the land changing, the grass thinner where the herds graze, the soil harder where their hooves tread. The elders mutter about it, saying too many animals strip the earth bare, leaving dust where green once grew. You see it in the dry patches near the village, the trees fewer each year, and wonder if the land can keep giving. There's a bond, though, small and unspoken. The dog follows you, its eyes sharp but trusting, and you feel a flicker of warmth when it curls up near the fire, its presence a comfort in the dark. You've seen your brother talk to the cattle, his voice low as if they understand his coaxing. Your mother sings to the goats as she milks her hands gentle despite their calluses. These moments are rare buried under the work, but they're real. You've heard of graves where dogs were laid beside their owners, their bones nestled close as if they shared a journey beyond this world. Maybe it's loyalty, a bond forged in hunts and nights, or maybe it's respect, a refusal to let their lives go to waste. The thought lingers soft but heavy as you watch your dog gnaw a bone, its tail, thumping the dirt. The village is shaped by these animals, their lives woven into yours. You build pens to protect them, fields to feed them, trays to grow their numbers. The leader with his big hut boasts the largest herd, his wealth measured in bleats and bells, not beads or pots. You envy his goats, fat and strong, while yours are scrappier, but you're proud too of the animals. You tend the milk, you draw the wool, you spin. You teach your children to herd, to milk, to stack dung, their small hands learning the rhythms of your life. You dream of a day when the herds are plenty, when the land stays green, when your dog might know more than hunger. The day presses on and you lead the goats to a fresh patch of grass, your dog at your side, its ears pricked for danger. The sheep follow their wool heavy, the cattle lowing as they lumber behind. The village feels alive, its animals and people a single creaking machine pulling towards survival. You think of the graves the dogs buried close to the land, wearing thin underhooves. You think of the milk you'll share tonight, the fire you'll feed with dung, the life you're building. Your hands are rough, your tunic stained, but you're here tied to these creatures, to this earth. You dream of a balance, a future where animals are friends, not just food, where the land breathes easy. For now, you guide the herd, toss a scrap to the dog, and keep going. One step, one bleat, one day at a time. The first side hustles. The late afternoon sun warms your back as you sit outside your mud-walled hut, a pile of flint stones at your feet and a smooth hammerstone in your hand. You strike carefully, chips flying, shaping a sharp blade that glints in the light. The village hums around you, goats bleat, smoke curls from nearby fires, and your neighbour's children chase a stray dog down the path. Your fingers ache from hours of this work, but you keep going, knowing the blade you're crafting could trade for a basket of barley or a jug of goat's milk. Farming keeps your family alive, but this, your skill with stone, is your side hustle, your way to get a little more in a world where survival is the only paycheck. 10,000 years ago, everyone's got a gig, and you're no exception, turning sweat into something the village needs. Your day started at dawn like always, out in the fields, pulling weeds and checking the barley under the relentless sun. Farming is your backbone, the work that fills your grain baskets and feeds your children. But the fields don't give everything. The village runs on trade, no coins, no markets, just you and your neighbours, swapping what you make for what you need. Your flint blades are your ticket. You've spent years learning to nap your hands, learning the stone's secrets, where it breaks clean, where it shatters. A good blade, sharp enough to cut hide or carve wood, is worth its weight in food. Last week you traded one for a woven mat, sturdy enough to sleep on. Today you're hoping for lentils, maybe even a fish if the river trader's feeling generous. You strike the flint again, your eyes sharp, and feel a flicker of pride as the blade takes shape. You're not alone in this hustle. Across the village, others are at work, their hands busy with skills that keep the community humming. Your sister, balancing her toddler on her hip, sits at a loom weaving flax into cloth, her fingers quick despite the baby's tugging. Her textiles, tunics, blankets, mats are soft and tight, the kind of work that earns a good trade, maybe a clay pot or a handful of dried herbs. Your neighbour, a woman with a steady hand, shapes clay into bowls, her thumbs pressing patterns into the wet surface, swirls and dots that make her pots stand out. She fires them in a pit of burning wood, the smoke rising like a prayer, and trades them for grain or wool. These women, like you, juggle their side hustles with the endless tasks of life, cooking, cleaning, caring for children, making something valuable in the stolen moments between chores. Skill matters in the village, and the best artisans are quietly essential. Your uncle, the best flint napper you know, can shape an arrowhead so fine it slices through hide like air. He's like the village's master craftsman, the one everyone turns to when a hunt needs new tools or a trader needs something special. But even he grumbles as his hands scarred and stiff, saying, "A good blade doesn't fill the belly unless the trade is fair." You've learned from him your strikes more precise each year, but you know the truth, no matter how good you are, the village doesn't sing your name. The leader with his big hut and beaded necklace gets the praise for organizing the harvest. The lawmaster with his chants claims the spirit's favor. You're the one whose blades make the hunt possible, whose trades keep the village fed, but your work is a quiet hum, not a shout. Trading is its own art, a dance of need and trust. You carry your finished blade to the riverbank where the village meets to swap goods. Your sister's there, her woven cloth folded neatly, eyeing a neighbour's basket of dried fish. You hold up your blade, catching the light, and a farmer approaches, offering a sack of barley. You haggle, your voice firm, you know the blade's worth more, maybe a jug of milk too. He hesitates, then agrees, and you walk away with the barley, your heart lighter. But trades aren't always fair. Last month you swapped the blade for a pot that cracked the first time you used it. Your sister once traded a blanket for wool that was half rotten. You learn to be sharp to trust, but verify, because a bad trade means a leaner winter. The work takes its toll. Your hands once soft are now rough. Your fingers stiff from gripping the hammerstone. Your sister's shoulders ache from the loom, her eyes squinting in the dim light of the hut. The potter's hands are cracked from clay, her knees sore from kneeling by the fire. You've seen the older women, their fingers gnarled, their backs bent, their bodies worn by years of grinding, weaving, shaping. Your own joints creak, sometimes a dull pain that settles in at night, a reminder that skill comes at a cost. You've heard of artisans buried with their tools, a flint knife, a weaving shuttle, a potter's smoothing stone laid beside them, like a badge of honour. Your aunt who wove the finest cloth was buried with her loom weights, a quiet nod to her life's work. It's a kind of respect, but it comes too late when your hands can't hold the stone or thread anymore. Your side hustle is more than survival, it's a spark of creation. You shape the flint not just for barley, but for the feel of it, the way the stone yields to your will. Your sister weaves patterns into her cloth, small flourishes that make her smile. The potter's designs etched into the clay tell stories of the river, the stars, the village. These are your marks, your legacy, even if the village doesn't always see them. You trade, you work, you build, and the village grows stronger for it. You teach your daughter to hold a hammerstone, her small hands clumsy but eager, and dream of a day when her skills might be praised, when her blades or cloth might be more than a trade. The day fades, and you sit by the fire napping one last blade, the village, quiet except for the soft bleats of goats. Your sister's loom clacks nearby, your neighbour's potter's wheel hums. You think of the barley you traded for the mat you sleep on, the tools you've made. Your hands are sore, your body tired, but you're here, part of this world, your work of thread in its fabric. You dream of a time when artisans are seen, when your daughter's hands are honoured, when your hustle is more than a quiet trade. For now, you shape the flint trade, the blade, and keep going. One strike, one trade, one day at a time. Disease. The uninvited guest. The air in your mud-walled hut is thick with the scent of smoke and damp straw, but it's the ache in your bones that keeps you awake, a dull pain that's lingered for days. You shift on your woven mat, the fire's embers casting faint shadows, and listen to the soft coughs of your children sleeping nearby. Outside the village is quiet, its huts pressed close, goats tethered just beyond your walls, their warm bodies a comfort and a curse. A week ago, your neighbour's fever broke, but not before it spread, leaving half the village weary, their faces pale, their breaths shallow. 10,000 years ago, disease is an uninvited guest creeping through your crowded village, carried by the air, the water, the animals you live with, and there's no way to shut the door. You've felt this before, fevers that burn, aches that linger, stomachs that twist after a bad meal. The village is a tight knot of people, your hut so close you hear your neighbour's snores, your lives tangled in shared fires and traded grain. But closeness breeds trouble. The waste piles up near the river, the water you drink sometimes tastes off, and the straw you sleep on harbours tiny pests that bite your skin. You've learned to sweep the hut daily, to boil water when you can, but it's not enough. Sickness moves fast, slipping from one family to the next, a shadow no chant can banish. Your mother says it's worse since the village grew, since the fields and herds brought you together, packing you tight like reeds in a basket. The animals you depend on are part of the problem. The goats penned just outside give milk and meat, but they also share their germs. You've seen it, your brother who milks them daily, coughing after a sick kid nuzzled his hand. The dogs, scrawny and loyal, sleep near your fire, their fleas jumping to your skin, their breaths carrying something you can't see. The cattle, strong but stubborn, leave dung you burn for fuel, its smoke sharp in your lungs. You love these creatures, or at least need them, but living so close, huts to pens, hands to fur, means you swap more than milk or wool. You've heard the elders talk of illnesses that come from animals, fevers that grip whole families, and you wonder if the goats you tend are both your lifeline and your enemy. Your body tells the story of these battles. Your joints ache not just from grinding grain, but from something deeper, a weariness that doesn't fade. Your sister, barely grown, has scars on her skin, faint marks from a fever that swept the village years ago, leaving her weak but alive. You've seen the bones of those who didn't make it, their ribs pitted with signs of long sickness, their lives cut short. The elders say some illnesses linger gnawing at you for years, weakening your breath or your bones. You've got no medicines like the future will, no pills or doctors, just herbs. Your mother brews prayers to the spirits and the hope your body's strong enough to fight. You chew willow bark for pain, sip mint tea for your stomach, but when the fever burns hot, it's a gamble and not everyone wins. The village tries to fight back in its own way. Your mother, with her steady hands, mixes herbs for the sick, her knowledge a quiet power. She wraps wounds in clean cloth, boils water for teas, and sits with those who burn her voice, soft as she sings for their strength. The lawmaster, the village's spiritual guide, takes a different path. He burns herbs, their smoke thick and dizzying, and chants to drive out the spirits he says cause the sickness. His rituals draw the village together, your neighbour's voices rising with his, a wall of sound against the fear. You've seen people rise after his dances, their eyes brighter, but you suspect your mother's teas do more than his songs. Still you join the chants, offer grain to the spirits, because hope is a medicine too, and you need every bit you can get. The sicknesses have names you don't know, fevers that blister, the skin, coughs that rattle the chest, parasites that twist your insides. You've felt the last one, a gnawing in your gut after drinking river water, your body weak until your mother's herbs eased the pain. The village's children bear the worst of it, their small frames fragile, their laughter fading when the fevers come. You've lost a brother to one, his small hand cold in yours, his grave a small mound outside the village. The pain lingers, but you carry on because the village needs you, because your other children still cling to your tunic, their eyes bright with life. Some survive, and that's a miracle. You've seen your neighbour, marked by scars from a fever that killed half her family, now strong, her hand shaping clay pots with ease. The elders say some who live through the worst sicknesses carry a kind of strength, their bodies learning to fight what others can't. You've heard of bones found in old graves, their surfaces rough with marks of a fever that burned, but didn't kill, proof of those who endured. You hold on to that, the idea that you might be one of them, that your children might outlast the unseen enemies in the air and water. But even the survivors carry burdens, aches that don't fade, weakness that lingers, a reminder that every victory comes with a cost. The village keeps moving its people, tending the sick, brewing teas, chanting for health. You're part of it, your hands busy with work, your heart heavy with worry. You teach your children to wash their hands, to avoid the river's edge, to listen to your mother's remedies. You dream of a day when sickness is rarer, when the village is cleaner, when your family's laughter isn't shadowed by coughs. For now you're here fighting the uninvited guest with herbs, hope, and the strength in your bones. You sit by the fire, your mother's hand on your shoulder, and feel the ache ease just a little, one breath. One day, one life at a time. Disease, the uninvited guest. The air in your mud-walled hut is thick with the scent of smoke and damp straw. But it's the ache in your bones that keeps you awake, a dull pain that's lingered for days. You shift on your woven mat, the fire's embers casting faint shadows, and listen to the soft coughs of your children sleeping nearby. Outside the village is quiet, its huts pressed close, goats tethered. Just beyond your walls, their warm bodies a comfort and a curse. A week ago your neighbour's fever broke, but not before it spread, leaving half the village weary, their faces pale, their breaths shallow. 10,000 years ago, disease is an uninvited guest creeping through your crowded village, carried by the air, the water, the animals you live with, and there's no way to shut the door. You've felt this before, fevers that burn, aches that linger, stomachs that twist after a bad meal. The village is a tight knot of people, your hut so close you hear your neighbours' snores, your lives tangled in shared fires and traded grain. But closeness breeds trouble. The waste piles up near the river, the water you drink sometimes tastes off, and the straw you sleep on harbours tiny pests that bite your skin. You've learned to sweep the hut daily to boil water when you can, but it's not enough. Sickness moves fast, slipping from one family to the next, a shadow no chant can banish. Your mother says it's worse since the village grew, since the fields and herds brought you together, packing you tight like reeds in a basket. The animals you depend on are part of the problem. The goats penned just outside give milk and meat, but they also share their germs. You've seen it, your brother who milks them daily, coughing after a sick kid nuzzled his hand. The dogs, scrawny and loyal, sleep near your fire, their fleas jumping to your skin, their breaths carrying something you can't see. The cattle, strong but stubborn, leave dung you burn for fuel, its smoke sharp in your lungs. You love these creatures, or at least need them, but living so close, huts to pens, hands to fur, means you swap more than milk or wool. You've heard the elders talk of illnesses that come from animals, fevers that grip whole families, and you wonder if the goats you tend are both your lifeline and your enemy. Your body tells the story of these battles. Your joints ache not just from grinding grain, but from something deeper, a weariness that doesn't fade. Your sister, barely grown, has scars on her skin, faint marks from a fever that swept the village years ago, leaving her weak but alive. You've seen the bones of those who didn't make it, their ribs pitted with signs of long sickness, their lives cut short. The elders say that some illnesses linger gnawing at you for years, weakening your breath or your bones. You've got no medicines like the future will know pills or doctors, just herbs your mother brews, prayers to the spirits, and the hope your body's strong enough to fight. You chew willow bark for pain, sip mint tea for your stomach, but when the fever burns hot, it's a gamble and not everyone wins. The village tries to fight back in its own way. Your mother, with her steady hands, mixes herbs for the sick, her knowledge a quiet power. She wraps wounds in clean cloth, boils water for teas, and sits with those who burn her voice soft as she sings for their strength. The lawmaster, the village's spiritual guide, takes a different path. He burns herbs, their smoke thick and dizzying, and chants to drive out the spirits he says cause the sickness. His rituals draw the village together, your neighbour's voices rising with his, a wall of sound against the fear. You've seen people rise after his dances, their eyes brighter, but you suspect your mother's teas do more than his songs. Still you join the chants of fear grain to the spirits, because hope is a medicine too, and you need every bit you can get. The sicknesses have names you don't know, fevers that blister the skin, coughs that rattle the chest, parasites that twist your insides. You felt the last one, a gnawing in your gut after drinking river water, your body weak until your mother's herbs eased the pain. The village's children bear the worst of it, their small frames fragile, their laughter fading when the fevers come. You've lost a brother to one, his small hand cold in yours, his grave a small mound outside the village. The pain lingers, but you carry on because the village needs you, because your other children still cling to your tunic, their eyes bright with life. Some survive, and that's a miracle. You've seen your neighbour marked by scars from a fever that killed half her family, now strong, her hands shaping clay pots with ease. The elders say some who live through the worst sicknesses carry a kind of strength, their bodies learning to fight what others can't. You've heard of bones found in old graves, their surfaces rough with marks of a fever that burned, but didn't kill, proof of those who endured. You hold on to that, the idea that you might be one of them, that your children might outlast the unseen enemies in the air and water. But even the survivors carry burdens, aches that don't fade, weakness that lingers, a reminder that every victory comes with a cost. The village keeps moving its people, tending the sick, brewing teas, chanting for health. You're part of it. Your hands busy with work, your heart heavy with worry. You teach your children to wash their hands, to avoid the river's edge, to listen to your mother's remedies. You dream of a day when sickness is rarer, when the village is cleaner, when your family's laughter isn't shadowed by coughs. For now, you're here fighting the uninvited guest with herbs, hope, and the strength in your bones. You sit by the fire, your mother's hand on your shoulder, and feel the ache ease. Just a little, one breath, one day, one life at a time. Rituals or just peer pressure? The moon hangs low, a pale sliver above the village as you trudge toward the firelit clearing, your bare feet sinking into the cool earth. The air is thick with the scent of burning herbs and roasted grain, and the rhythmic thud of drums pulls you forward, your heart keeping time. You carry a woven basket heavy with barley, your family's offering for tonight's ritual, a harvest festival, to thank the spirits for the fields. Around you, your neighbours move in a quiet stream, their faces painted with red clay, their hands clutching pots, goats, or bundles of cloth. The lawmaster stands by the fire, his feathered headdress swaying as he chants his voice, weaving a spell over the crowd. You don't want to be here, it's late, your body aches from a day in the fields, and you'd rather sleep, but you can't say no. 10,000 years ago, rituals are the village's heartbeat, and skipping one means risking whispers, curses, or worse. You've grown up with these ceremonies, each one a thread tying the village together. There's the harvest festival like tonight, where you sing for full baskets and dance until your feet ache. There's the burial rite, when you lay the dead to rest with tools or beads, your voice joining others to guide their spirits. There's the rain ceremony, when you offer grain or a goat to beg for water in a dry season. You've helped build the altars, hauling stones to form circles or piling wood for fires, your hands blistered, your back sore. You've prepared the offerings, grinding extra barley or weaving a mat to please the spirits. The work is yours, your neighbours, your villagers, but the lawmaster and the leader with his fine tunic and beaded necklaces stand above it all, their voices loud, their hands clean. They call it guiding, but you know it's supervision, their eyes watching to ensure you don't falter. The rituals are more than worship, they're a promise, a pact that keeps the village in line. You've seen what happens to those who refuse. Last year a man skipped a ceremony saying he was too tired, his fields too needy. Whispers spread, the spirits were angry, his crops would fail. His family was cursed, his grain withered, or so the elders said, and soon he was gone, his hut empty, his name a warning. You don't know if it was the spirits or the village's cold shoulder, but you know you can't risk it. You show up, you chant, you give, because the eyes of your neighbours are as powerful as the gods. It's peer pressure, dressed up in clay paint and drum beats, and you're caught in its grip, your basket heavy, your steps obedient. Tonight's festival is a big one, the kind that draws every family, their offerings piled high by the fire. You set your barley down, its golden grains, catching the light, and step back as the lawmaster raises his arms, his chant rising over the drums. He speaks of the spirits, of their hunger, for your gifts, of their power to fill your fields or dry them to dust, and you sing with the others, your voice blending into a wave, and for a moment you feel it, the village as one, your fears easing, the spirits close. You dance, your feet moving to the rhythm, your body forgetting its aches. It's not joy, not exactly, but it's something connection, hope. A sense that your work, your offering matters. You glance at your sister, her face glowing in the firelight, and smile, the ritual binding you closer than any words. But not all rituals are so warm. You've heard of darker ones in desperate times when the rains fail or the fields lie barren. The lawmaster speaks of the spirit's demands of gifts greater than grain or goats. You've seen captives from rival villages, their wrists bound, their eyes wide, brought to the altar in hushed ceremonies. It's rare. So rare you can count the times on one hand, but it happens lives, offered to appease the gods, to save the village from hunger or wrath. You don't linger on it, don't speak of it, but the memory sits heavy, a shadow behind the firelight. You focus on the barley, the drums, the hope that tonight's offering is enough, that the spirits will be kind. The altars you build, the stones you haul, aren't just for the gods, they're for the village's pride, especially for the elites. The leader and the lawmaster dream big, talking of circles that will stand forever, like the great stone pillars far away carved with animals and stars. You've heard the stories of places built to honour the spirits, their stones raised by hands like yours, their rituals led by men like the lawmaster. But you wonder as you stack another rock if it's really for the gods or for the men who watch you work. The leaders' feasts held after these ceremonies are lavish roasted meat, honey, laughter while you eat porridge, your offering gone to the fire. The altars, the rituals feel like a flex, a way for the powerful to show their strength, their connection to the spirits while you sweat and give. The village depends on these moments, even if they're heavy. The rituals hold you together, give you a reason to gather, to sing, to hope. You've seen the way your neighbours' faces soften in the firelight, their worries eased by the lawmaster's words. You felt it too when the rains come after a ceremony, when the harvest fills your baskets, when the spirits seem to listen. But you also see the cost, your time, your grain, your hands, all poured into something that serves the elites as much as the gods. You've heard whispers of other villages, their altars left to crumble, their rituals forgotten, as if the spirits moved on or never cared. It stings the thought that your work might fade, that the gods might be silent, that the pressure you feel is more human than divine. You return to your hut as dawn breaks, the fire's embers dying, your body weary but your heart full. Your family sleeps, their breath soft, the village quiet beyond the walls. You think of the barley you gave, the stones you stacked, the chants you sang. You think of the captives, the altars, the elites who watched. You're part of this world, bound by its rituals, its pressures, its hope. You dream of a day when the ceremonies lift everyone, when the work is shared, when the spirits speak to all. For now you're here, a villager, a worker, a believer, carrying the village's faith, one offering, one dance, one day at a time. Why are we still here? The sun beats down on your back as you kneel in the dusty field, your hands pulling weeds from the rows of barley that stretch toward the horizon. The air smells of dry earth and sweat, and your knees ache from hours bent low, your tunic patched and fraying. Around you the village hums goats, bleat smoke curls from mud huts, and the river glints under the midday light. You're not just a farmer, you're part of a revolution, one that started when your ancestors chose to plant seeds instead of chasing deer. But as you wipe your brow, your body worn, your belly half full, you can't help but wonder, was this choice a gift or a curse? 10,000 years ago, you're living the Neolithic dream, and it's laying the foundation for everything. Cities, wars, taxes, and a nagging sense that life could have been easier if you'd just stayed in the woods. This life wasn't your idea. Generations ago, your people traded the freedom of the hunt for the promise of steady food. You plant, you harvest, you store, and the village grows, its huts crowding closer, its fields pushing back the forests. But farming isn't the golden ticket you'd hoped. It's a deal with a tricky partner. More food, yes, but more work too. You rise before dawn, toil until dusk, your hands calloused, your back bent. The grain fills baskets, but it also chains you to the land, to the endless cycle of sowing and reaping. You've heard stories of the wanderers, those who still hunt and gather their days shorter, their bodies stronger. You envy their freedom, even as you stack another basket, knowing your choice or your ancestors has shaped a world you can't escape. The village isn't equal, and you feel it every day. The leader with his big hut and beaded necklace eats meat while you chew gritty bread. The lawmaster with his feathered headdress chants for the spirits and takes your best grain as an offering. There are the elites, the ones who control the surplus, who decide who gets a share when the harvests fail. You work the fields, you grind the grain, you weave the cloth, but they live better, bigger homes, fewer blisters, longer lives. You're not alone in this. The women like your sister bear the heaviest load, cooking, weaving, raising children. Their hands never still their work unseen. The marginalized, the captives from raids, the ones who owe debts, toil in the shadows, their lives harder than yours. You see it the way the village splits those who sweat and those who take, and it feels like a seed planted long ago now grown into a tree you can't climb. This world you're building isn't just huts and fields, it's the blueprint for everything to come. The surplus grain means some can stop farming, can craft tools or lead rituals, and from that grows villages, then towns, then cities. But with them come wars as villages clash over land or water, their spears carving paths for future armies. Taxes too are born here in the baskets you give to the leader, the share he claims as his right. And the dread, the quiet fear that this life, this grind is all there is. It starts here in the fields, in the huts, in the choices that traded freedom for stability. You're not just planting barley, you're planting the roots of a world that will echo for millennia, its triumphs and its burdens carried on your tired shoulders. But there's hope in this mess, a spark that keeps you going. You love, despite the grind, your children's laughter, your sister's quiet smile as she braids your hair, the warmth of your neighbour's shared stew. You laugh even when the fields are dry, trading stories by the fire, finding joy in the small things. You survive, your body scarred but strong, your family growing, your village enduring. You're part of something bigger, a legacy that stretches beyond your hut, beyond your lifetime. The women, the workers, the ones who carry the village's heart, they're the real foundation, their hands shaping a world that will outlast the elite's fine tunics. You see it in the pots your sister makes their patterns sacred, in the stories you tell your children, in the barley that feeds them. You're not just enduring, you're building, and that matters. The irony stings, though, when you think about it. You're creating a world that will call this time simple, as if your life is a gentle dream of fields and fires. Simple, it's a chaotic, sweaty mess, floods, washing away your crops, sickness, creeping through the huts, the leader's voice drowning out your own. You're not living in harmony with nature, you're wrestling it, clearing forests, salting fields, turning grass to dust. You're not noble savages, you're noble survivors making choices that will ripple forward for better or worse. The cities, the wars, the taxes, they're your doing or your ancestors, and you're left to wonder if it was worth it, if the bread you baked gritty and hard was worth the freedom you lost. You stand in the field, the barley swaying, and look at the village, your home, your burden, your legacy. You think of the elites, their huts glowing with firelight and the women their hands weaving life itself. You think of the wars to come, the cities that will rise the world you're planting with every seed. You're tired, you're body-worn, but you're here, part of this revolution, this deal with the earth that gave you everything and asked for more. You dream of a day when the burdens are lighter, when the village is equal, when your children's children might know a better world. For now, you're a farmer, a builder, a survivor, carrying the Neolithic's weight, one seed one day, one life at a time.